Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is no. Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a
very
pre-move. He made a pre-move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh.
He's
Sure.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there. Yep, that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is no. Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a
very
pre-move. He made a pre-move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh.
He's
Sure.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there. Yep, that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is no. Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a
very
pre-move. He made a pre-move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh.
He's
Sure.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there. Yep, that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
He blunders his rook.
Why?
And Magnus
What is-
wins the game. And that
man.
was a lesson in just pressure, pressure, pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He is getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an
Hello, chat. Welcome back to another stream of the Rapid Chess Championship Week 17 presented by Coinbase. We are back here to focus on our Indian players, our Indian stars, which I don't want to miss a single day of it. And apologies for the delay out there. It took me a while to set things up with everything and be here, but we are here now. I'm ready with my coffee and with all the things I need for today's evening. Are you guys ready? And someone in the chat, Janvi, going that I have a long day today. It's true, guys. It's been a long day of commentary, but look at Ronak. Ronak's played 4 hard fought games today, and he's back here he hasn't had enough, and he's back here playing another another 9 rounds of 10 plus 0. How incredible is Ronak? I think chat we should go Ronak OP just for his spirit, just for his amazing spirit. We have 3 Indians playing in the Rapid Chess Championship, and none of them have the name Vidit Gujarati, Vidit or Santosh or Gujarati in their names. So that's a bit of disappointment for everyone, I know, and I wish I could make up for that by playing myself. But guys, the anti-cheating restrictions, I'll need a second camera out here, and I'll need to set the stream with delay, and it's not as simple as wearing this t-shirt or changing it. In case you noticed, I did exactly that. So yeah, it's not going to be possible for me to play today. Instead, we'll be following the 3 Indians. Let's quickly introduce 3 Indians out there who are playing today, who we have today. One is Ronak, of course. The second one is Grandmaster Sham Sundar. Now, how many of you know Sham Sundar here? And yeah, Janvi, I had to be very careful to do that, to change my t-shirt in case you get the reference. I couldn't have just... So how many of you know Sham Sundar here, guys? Oh, wait, Arjun is also playing. Wow, that's going to be a cracker of a contest. Thanks for letting me know. So there's also Arjun here. And it's my 6th hour of commentary already today. So do bear with me, guys, if there is something happening here which is not up to your expectations. So we have Ronak, we have come on, guys, don't make me blush like that. We have Ronak, we have Arjun, Sham Sundar, and Sham Sundar student Bharat Subramaniam, who recently received an award from Mahendra Singh Dhoni for his... I don't exactly remember for what, but it was a prestigious award. Itna though I remember. So yeah. Let me just finish this coffee in a couple of seconds and get back to you guys. Meanwhile, you can see how Arjun is a piece down against his opponent, who is from Canada. Cool. All right, chat. I'm all decked up. Let's go. So Arjun seems to be not doing great here. He's down by a piece, and he has this dangerous deep on, but it's for the moment under control. On the other hand, he has a 2-minute time advantage, and to quickly take you through the format, it's a 9-round event of 10 plus 0. There's no increment. Yeah, it's a 9-round event of 10 plus 0, and the top 8 of today will qualify to the knockouts tomorrow. So it's going to be, as you can see, people just can't get enough of chess. There is Arjun here, 4 disappointing rounds today. His tournament not going the way he likes it to be. So he's back here. And there is also Sham Sundar here. Okay, Sham Sundar, I don't know what he did in the early part of his day, but he's a pretty hard-working coach, and he's starting out his new academy. So we have Sham Sundar. Rohit, exactly, best time for you to tune in. So quickly going through the Indians, there is Ronak, who's playing against Jumabayev. He has the black pieces. Let's flip this one. Yeah, queen into g3. Now queen at 6. That's a good one, Anshika. Exactly. This is a flaggers arena, but with more time, this tournament has the potential to create more and more FFLs, if you guys know what I mean and get the reference. If you know, you know. Yeah, we have Sham Sundar. Let's have a quick look at the other two games that is going on. So I have it in my yeah. We have Harika with the white pieces against Jules, and the one more Indian player out here is Bharat Subramaniam. So these are the 5 players that we have here today. Pieces, and he has he had a great tournament last week, but he has been struggling a bit with his time management. And this is one tournament I absolutely love to cover, guys, because it's part of my job description to keep an eye on the different Indians playing at different places. This makes my job so much easier. Janu, you should become a part of the stream. But I'm glad we have you in chat. I don't see Harsha here. Yeah, we have Harsha too. So 6 Indians overall. I think we got them right. I got them all. 6 Indians. Harsha also having a difficult, having a long day. He played a tournament already, 4 rounds, and now he's back here. Arjun, Bharat, Harsha, Sham, Raunak, and Harika. 6 players. This is why you need to have neat medical students as your mods, and I'm glad that finally I have one of my mods stepping up and doing the job. So Ferose has won the first round against Harsha. He lost 2 pawns and he's lost this game. So that's our first result amongst Indians. And from round 2 onwards, our coverage will be much better and much more comprehensive. Since we're just getting into the swing of things, 6 Indians out of a total of how many players? Once again, and Shika, if you can find that out, I'd be so grateful to you. So 6 Indians, and we'll figure out how many players very soon. And once we know the amount of players, we'll have an approximate idea of what amount of points will be sufficient to get into the top 8, the knockouts. The first game between Jumabayev against Raunak. Once again, chat, which player shall we focus on? Are we going to focus on Arjun or Raunak or someone else? Who shall we focus on in the initial stages of this tournament, the first round to start with? Thank you, Janvi. I don't know why you're not a mod. If it was my channel, I would have modded you right away. Yeah. So getting back here, who do we start with? We have Raunak, we have Arjun, we have 4 other players. So Raunak gets the first vote, and Raunak has the black pieces. And he's struggling, guys. He's losing this pawn. So it's 5 pawns for white and 4 pawns only for black. And we are in the end game. It's not easy for black to get any compensation. He's trying with b5. He has a little more time, but oh, we don't see the... yeah, we see the time. So he has a little more time. But I think Jumabayev has enough time to convert this position. He has about 3 minutes, and 3 minutes is the amount of time you start with in a lot of these blitz games on chess.com. You start as a 3+0. So I think Raunak is worse here. So I'll take control of things. Now let's have a look at what Arjun is doing. Crazy position, but he's up by rook. He was down by a piece earlier when we came here, but now he's up by a full rook. Greedy Ajju. Whereas VD is probably on the way en route to Prague. He's going to play in Prague Masters pretty soon. So that takes a little bit of precedence, and therefore he's out there. FFL is a long... it requires too much context, I reckon. Yeah, he goes for the queen, and now the king goes... He can just get rook b1. Bishop b2 check, king d2, and this queen will get stuck. So Arjun has won his first round, guys, and Raunak hasn't finished his game yet, but Raunak is not doing great. We had 2 results from the Indian games. Harika has lost a game, and Harsha has also lost his game. Arjun is winning, so we have 1. It will be fun to see kind of team tournament. Yeah, we have 6 players, so maybe one of the people in the chat can keep up scores of each round of the Indian players. How is that, guys? Yes, Anshika is an ancient soul. She gets all these references. Queen g4 check. If king h8, there's knight f7 checkmate. So black goes king f8. He's continuing on. That's the thing with the online chess these days. But queen f5 check, queen e6, queen f4 check, queen into e4. You're just basically taking, oh yeah, queen f7 check. That's one of the ways to trade the queens. The best way, queen into f7, knight into f7, and his opponent has resigned. So that's 2-1, guys. 2-1 for Indians. Getting back to Raunak, he seems to have saved his game. This pawn is on the way to queen, and now white has to take knight into a3 and enforce a draw. So good stuff by Raunak. Not a great start, but he's managed to save this. That's what happens with these amazing players. Sometimes they don't get the best of days. Sometimes they don't start well, but they manage to keep things out on average. And Raunak has managed to do that. He's going to make a draw in this game. Knight into a3, bishop into a3, bishop into b4, bishop into b4, and it's a draw, guys. So 1.5, 2.5. Let's move on to one of the other games before the games end. Sham Sundar is struggling against Shimano. He's down by a pawn, and he's also a bit low on time. This came with the good old 1e4 opening, the Scandinavian defense. And interestingly, Sham Sundar's opponent, Shimano, is also his own age group. He's of the same age as Sham Sundar. So that's incredible, yeah. And how is the student Bharat doing? Bharat is doing relatively better. So I think we'll stick on with this game because, you know, we want to see, ideally we want to see the game where one of the Indian players has a higher chance of winning. Rajesh, is Nihal playing? Nihal is not playing. And can you guess why? I once asked him, why do you never play Rapid Chess Championship? Can you guess what reason he gave as to why he's not playing in the Rapid Chess Championship? Just take a guess, chat. Just take a guess, and let's see who gets the closest guess to the right answer. It's a bit of a drawn-out game, this one, but here time plays a major role, and Bharat has double the time of his opponent, and he also has a better position because of the bad pawn structure of black. Yes, guys, the JSCC final in June 6th is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Nihal defeated Arjun today, so that's a pity. But it's going to be a cracker of a contest on June 6th. So their rivalry is not yet over. Yes, it's going to be a week of Arjun versus Nihal, and I think Nihal has taken a bit of lead there. So Arjun will be pining for his comeback here. Guys, VD is not playing today, so unfortunately you're going to find someone else to give hot and cold comments and opinions on. Pity because it was just one game, you know, and it ended pretty quickly. But we're going to have a long 3-hour match session, and that's going to be a lot of fun, I think. One game can often go here and there, and I think it's a bit too less for such amazing players of such caliber. So I'm really looking forward to this match, and I think Nihal starts as a massive favorite in JSCC. He's simply at a different level in JSCC. I think even with Arjun, but it will be very interesting to see how much Arjun catches on with, and how quickly. Now, I think we need to have a few pinned chats in the comments, guys, because we see constantly different same questions coming in at different intervals. And once again, guys, Bharat is winning this one. Bharat is completely winning. He's going to threaten f4, and his opponent is going to flag in I think a couple of moves. Bishop c3, bishop d c3, rook into c3, and it's flag. It's 10 plus 0, guys. There's no increment. This tournament. Oh my god, look at this. He's gotten himself into. What has he gotten himself into? Some kind of a mating net. After king e6, guys, it's winning by force for black. Rook c4 check is incoming, and if the rook moves, then there is rook c3. Rook d3, rook c4 check is checkmate. And Shyam Sundar has lost against Shimano, guys, so it's 3.5, 2.5. And that's the end of round 1. We'll be quickly back for round 2. It should take less than a minute, but we'll be back really, really soon. Don't go anywhere. And do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a remove. He made a remove. King g3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
far.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10 plus 2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And we are back for round 2, where Arjun starts off by playing against Anton Demchenko. Arjun has the black pieces. It started off with the good old Italian opening, bishop c4, knight f6, and after d3, he played d5. Now, guys, here bishop c5 is the main move. Bishop e7 like this. d5 is a relatively new move. Here's the first question for the chat. Against which player did Arjun play this exact same opening, this exact same setup in recent times? Now, those who have been following Arjun's games quite closely will be able to get this one. It's a bit of a difficult question, but do let me know in the chat, guys. Against which player did Arjun play this 4d5? And it's generally pretty rewarding to answer the right questions. Bharat won his game, Suman. So Bharat has won his game, and guys, unfortunately, it's not possible to get a bigger board for the stream. You will have to do with this one. But yeah, the layout doesn't support a bigger board, and I don't have access to. I won't be able to watch this at a different interface on chess.com live. So I have to do it from events, and this is a different board. What about Nihal, guys? No, it's not Nihal. It's not Nihal. No. It was in Sigaman & Co. I can give you this much hint. It was in a classical OTV event in Sigaman & Co. And Arjun had the black pieces. And we are in a similar endgame. And I guess Arjun needs to take a bit of break and rejuvenate himself and arm himself with new ideas. It's been hectic and crazy for him in terms of the tournaments that he's playing. Of course, the same thing applies to me as well in general, but I think it applies even more so to Arjun because he has been playing takes a bit more energy than anything else. I think it takes a lot more mental energy than anyone else. Now let's do a quick opening tour of all the 6 boards. This one's close to equal, I would say. It's equal. The evaluation bar shows 0.5, but Arjun knows what he's doing. He's threatening bishop into f3. After this, it's going to go into an opposite color bishop endgame, and that's pretty drawish. So it's pretty equal, and I expect this one to end in a draw. So Arjun 1 out of 1, and expecting this one to end in a draw. And we have 56 players in total, which is a bit more than what we had last week. So I'm expecting more points to be required to qualify. Now, Harsha Bartakoti is playing against Martin Kramer. He lost the first round, and out here it's a slow Italian, which is totally symmetrical. Now, these pawns are the only differences. Apart from that, if you look at the pawns in each file, H, H, G, G, E, E, D, D, C, C, B, B, A, A, all of them on the same files, pretty much symmetrical. Only these pawns are slightly different, but it doesn't really give much in favor of white necessarily. So I think it's just an equal position out here. The third one is Raunak against Shu Yunglun from China. Raunak had a difficult first game, but he managed to end it in a draw. It's not Hans Nilanjana, but we are close with the age group. So this one's only slightly better for Raunak, but he has a large time advantage. And Bishop d5 check, Bishop d7, Bishop into d7, Knight into d7. This is not your typical move here. Usually Queen into d7 is the main move, but Knight into d7 is also acceptable. Short castle, Knight f6, and Queen e2, e6, b3, Bishop e7, Bishop e2, short castle, and c4. White gets this really nice bind in these types of questions, but in recent times what they found, especially after a Carlsen Anish game, is that black can react in the center with d5, and this goes pretty close to an equal position for black. But having said that, it's not a great idea to spend half of your time in a 10+0 game. White black has only like 5 minutes, and it's no increment, so he's going towards losing. Now this 5-minute advantage on the clock, especially if your opponent is not Hikaru, is I think as big as a 2-pawn advantage. It's like +2, the equivalent of it. So this is Raunak's situation out of the opening. Now Harika is playing against Grandmaster Pavel Pancrato. And look at this position, guys. Look at this crazy position. There is a rook hanging on f5. There is a white rook hanging on h7. White can play something like queen into g6 with the idea of rook h8 checkmate. But guys, what happens if white plays queen into g6 check? What is black's move here? And what would you play if you are black? Why is queen into g6 not possible here? We have time because the game's not going to get auto updated and we don't have a live board here. So go ahead and try and find out what would black play here. Yes, Anshika, you have got it right. It was Jordan with the white pieces against Arjun with black in Sigaman and Co. Arjun tried something similar there and he in fact got a better position. And well done, Janvi. It is c2 check. c2 check wins here because after king c1 there is knight b3. Shout out to Abhinav Gupta as well. But you got the coordinates wrong, which is partially my fault. I guess I need to put the coordinates outside the board. I'll do that at the end of this next round. But yeah, it's c2, and if king a1, knight b3 check, knight c1, and queen e2 also wins. And you can also do c into d1 queen and win this. So yes, there's a reason why white cannot take queen into g6, and this is the reason why Harika is so totally winning here after b into c3. Now what happens after e into f5, chat? What would you do if black takes c into f5? Now that one was easy, c2 check. Yes, as you mentioned, it was easy. But what if e into f5 check? Now what's the move? Now how does black win? E into f5, and it's black to play. This is actually a pretty instructive example because you're going to get a lot of these positions where you're completely winning, and the challenge is to try and complete it, try and finish it off. And how do you do that? So this is a slightly harder question, chat, and this is how we build on with things. Mohit, it's black to play. E into F5 and it's black to play. It's not white to play. My question is, what if black takes E into F5? A lot of people in the chat going rook b8. Not a bad move, guys, but rook b8, what is white's threat here? There is rook h8 check coming, king into g7, queen g6 check, king into h8, and rook h1. There's still bishop h4. It's not totally clear, but it gets unnecessarily complex. So what's the simplest way for you to finish this off? The simplest way, where it finishes off, no chances given, no questions asked. How do we do that? Yes, chest. It's c2 check. You just force the trade of the queens. You get the queens off the board, and then you take the piece with king into h7, and it's GGO. So this is the reason why her opponent played rook to c1. But now after queen e3 check, rook c2, king into h7. She played queen d3 because after e into f5 she wants to take back with the queen, and now she's up just by she's just up by 2 pawns, and she's just winning. So completely winning the Harika, and Bharat Subramaniam is playing against Shu Xianggu, and another Chinese opponent. And it is Bharat who has less time in today's game. He in this round's game, there are 5 pawns each. Black's pawn structure a bit better. Queen on g5, knight on d5, menacingly staring at the g2 point. But white has just won a pawn, so he's not totally out of this game. But black is doing better. Oh, congratulations, Ojasva. Well done. You're 1/3 towards achieving your title. Knight f4, queen b7, and now what are black's options? Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking about. He can take the d4 pawn, because if you take the bishop, then the c5 knight falls. Knight into d4, queen into c5. Knight into d4, rook into c5 is also possible. And Arjun has already drawn, by the way. So 1.5 out of 2. And Harika has won her game. So she's on 1 out of 2. And meanwhile, how's Sham Sundar doing? Sham Sundar has the white pieces against Ori Kobo from Esri, and Sham seems to be doing really well. There's rook f1 coming, guys. Bishop into h6, rook into f8 comes with a check. And rook f1, if black moves the queen, then we have knight f7 check and knight into d6. That's one option. And there are a number of things you can do as white, but knight f7 check, knight into d6 is pretty powerful. That's one of the best options here. So funny ones, Abhishek. I haven't watched that meme though. Feel free to tag me with something similar on Twitter. Getting back to the Ronak game, guys, we are just in time to see Ronak ruthlessly flag his opponent, and not just flag his opponent, but he's also advancing with the h pawn. But that's kind of to just create some illusory threats on the king side. What's actually going to happen is he's going to flag his opponent, because the opponent has only 1 minute remaining and Ronak has 6 minutes, so basically 64 seconds. Now, how many moves do you think his opponent will be able to make within those 64 seconds? Even if we count like 2 seconds per move, that's only 32 moves. He took 5 seconds for that move for queen d5, and now after queen e3, knight d4, again he took another 4 seconds, and he not only took 4 seconds, but this knight, which was so useful to defending this g7 square, is likely to get traded now. So he can take knight into d4, queen into d4, play queen g5, and it's going to get very difficult for black. So he's either going to lose on time, or he's not going to lose in position, and he's likely to do both. It's such a nice and convenient situation for Ronak, who is also set to go towards 1.5 out of 2. It's the 29th move right now, guys. So let's see if Gaming 4 Hours answer will whether it will be correct. Raunak taking a bit of time. He's slowing down a bit. But yeah, he just goes 91. The spawn is lost now. And look at this. Another 10 seconds spent by black. ऐसा कैसे चलेगा? You can't play like this in 10 plus 0. And now I think black has absolutely no chance. Vidit isn't playing because he's flying to Prague Masters, and being from Nashik, he has to travel to every place before a week. Oh yeah, you didn't guess why Nihal doesn't play a lot of Rapid Chess Championship. He gave me a certain answer. Abhinav, platforms certainly changes the game and the comfort of playing. Not to a large extent, but it certainly feels different on different platforms. So there is that comfort and discomfort. Knight g5 with the idea of knight into h7, king g8, knight e4, and it's game over chat. So yes, it's winning, and Ronak has won officially. So what's the score for the Indians this round, guys? Arjun drew, Harika won, and Ronak also won. Yes, Anshika, that's correct. It is too slow for him. That's what he said. He said he felt like 10 minutes is a really, really long time. Meanwhile, getting back to the Harsha game, guys, he's made some progress. The pawns are equal, the pieces are equal, but white's pawn structure is just a little bit better. With rook d3, he's threatening rook into d7, king into d7, knight into e5 check. So rook c5 here, and now knight to b5. Still coming to terms with understanding this position, but you can see how black's pieces are in a bit of tangle. So knight b5, there is these nasty threats, knight into c7 check. It's actually not easy to defend against this position. Yeah, guys, I know, right? Nihal at his best. It's like I thought of playing it, but I felt like 10 minutes is a lot of time. These were his exact words. And yeah, g into f4, knight f6. Now the e4 pawn is attacked. White just goes back knight c3, knight to c6, rook g3. It's just king f7, I guess. This is a pretty interesting game. We'll get back to the end of this. We'll just have a quick look at the other two games. I think Shyam Sundar must be winning by now completely. With queen f3 is offering. Oh, the game has changed. The game has changed. Wow, how did that happen? I thought he would be like at this position. It was totally over. He was completely winning, and he has let it slip through his mouse fingers. And now this position is just equal because the e5 pawn is set to be lost, and it will be 3 versus 3. The king is coming to e6. The e5 pawn is set to be lost, and this is unfortunate for Shyam. And Bharat has an approximately equal position here. He will take this pawn, black will take this pawn, and it's free dodge. He just has less time. So these are the two games, Shyam and Bharat. Let's get back to the Harsha game, which is actually pretty interesting and exciting, whether Harsha will be able to win this one or not. For now, black has a pretty nice blockade out on e5, so it's not so easy for white to push forward. He can't do e5, he can't do knight e3. Rook e3 is a good move, but then black gets knight e5. So with h4, he tries to force things, but how much time did he invest on that one? He took a really long time for h4, 27 seconds. And now quickly plays h5, but he's really down on time here. Yeah, I think Vini might be mentally preparing for Prague, like doing like this in his flight and then thinking about all the different things, what opening is going to play against who, and all these things mashing up in his head. And then suddenly he remembers about something from YouTube and what he wants to shoot for his Prague vlog. And then he wakes up and then he takes out his phone and does exactly that. I think that's the picture I have of Vidit right now. He's sitting back on his flight wherever he's en route to Nashik to Prague, the week-long journey, and imagining a mixture of his opponents, the chess opponents, and the vlog content. So the 75%, like the chessboard part of it is the chessboard, and where you see my video camera, that's the vlog part, and that's the amount of brain space that he should probably be having in his dream, in his sleep, you know. And what happens with dreams in general is it gets mashed up. It all gets mashed up. So I can imagine the vlog and the chess part getting some kind of weird mashup. And here we go, guys. Let's getting back to the chess part before I get more carried away with my daydream of VD's flight dream. I think this one's going to be lost for Harsha, unfortunately. That would be his second loss in a row if that happens. The problem is he has too little time left. He has only 13 seconds. So mental note to myself, if I play this event, always have more time. Don't get into this dead zone of having too less time in non-incremental chess. He's given up the rook. Finally, he had to. It was coming. King into g2. And then he has to start advancing his pawns ASAP. So king c4, black goes rook b8, rook c8 check. And he has to make this move, which is unexpected for his opponent, looking at the time. This knight goes to g4. Now knight e3 check would have been good. He's catching up on time. He's playing fast. Rook d5 check. Give a rook d5 check. Come. What is black doing? He's just lost it. He doesn't have practice. Knight d5 check. Give a knight d5 check. Not now. Not now. What? Black's time ran out. No, we just didn't get an update. And I'm getting the same update as you guys. The game is happening. Oh my god, that's so unfortunate. Harsha lost on time. Both of them had 0 seconds, but I think Harsha just had a little less time. That's just so unfortunate. Harsha has lost this one. Bharat has also lost this one against Shushiango, and Sham Sundar drew against Ori Kobo. So that's the end of round 2, guys. Arjun has 1.5 out of 2. Ronak has 1.5. Harsha has 0. A bit unfortunate in this game. Harika has 1 out of 2. And Bharat, Sham Sundar half. And Bharat has 1 out of 2. So that's our Indian roundup of round 2. We'll be quickly back for round 3 in about 30 seconds. Meanwhile, do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't.
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
He blunders his rook.
Why?
And Magnus wins the game. And that was a lesson in just pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He's getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. And Shiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next.
Welcome back, everyone, to round 3 of the Rapid Chess Championship. I know the font is a bit small of the standings, but we do have the standings now. And we also have the kickoff of round 3. Now, chat, before we delve further into the games, first question for you guys. Which opening do we have on the board in the Arjun Blue Bomb game right now? Which opening? Go for your best guess. And now, at the moment, let's just keep it to the top 8 of the standings, so that we know who's in the qualification bracket, and I think that should give us a pretty clear picture of how the tournament is going on. Yeah, I think that looks good. And there we go. Yeah, this is the top 8 right now. So far, we don't have any Indians in the top 8. But early stages, guys, it's only 2 rounds over so far, and there is a total of 9 rounds here. It's 10 plus 0. It's knockout, and 1985 looks flashy, but it's not working for some reason. But chat, which opening is this? How did it start? Abhinav, fantastic, excellent stuff. Big shout out to you. It was a Jobava London. He started with knight c3, bishop f4. Now, if you have been following Arjun's games in recent times, he's been doing a lot of Jobava London. So I would say no prizes for guessing, but looking at the guesses, the guess certainly deserves some kind of a prize. I hope shout out is worthy of it. Now, 95, knight d5, queen in d5, crazy position, complex position. The immediate threat is knight c7 check. Arjun is up by a pawn, but black is not, of course, going to sit like this and let himself be hit. He's going to hit back. So queen a5 check, knight c3. Queen a5 check, attacking both the knight and the king at once. So knight c3, queen into e5, d into e5. And I think here black has this very nice move, bishop b4, with the idea of bishop into c3. You know, the computer doesn't like it. So yeah, but I think bishop b4 is pretty tempting, and the move that is likely to be played and the direction that the game goes in. So I think Arjun has a bit of an advantage here. But yeah, he has a bit of an advantage, some initiative. But it's going to be complex, and let's see how this game takes place. Again, a quick opening roundup, guys, before we go too deep into one of the games. There's the other game between Raunak against Rustemo. Raunak with the white pieces. Now let's again play guess the opening based on the pawn structure. So this is the position after the first 15 moves. Now guess which pawn structure this opening is from. And sorry, which opening is this pawn structure from, and what do you think was the likely opening in this game? What is automatic leg opening? So once again, Raunak with 1.5 out of 2. A quick look at the standings while you try and guess this opening. Arjun is the top Indian at 11th place, and Raunak has the same 1.5 points. He's at the 16th place. Then we have Bharat with 1 out of 2, and Harika with 1. Then Sham Sundar with half, and we have Harsha, who is yet to get off the mic. So this is the standings we have. Yes, it's French defense, guys. Well done. Excellent. Jayant, Rohit, Aditya, and Aryan. It started out as a French defense, and it was advanced French. That was a good guess based on the pawn structure, which is the anatomy of a chess game and a chess position. So knight bd2, knight e7, b4, knight c6, short castle, knight f5. I mean, based on this pawn structure, you could figure out that this was the French defense. And this is the present position that we have right now. This seems to be a bit better for Raunak because he's just an exchange up. The reason is that. And how did he win this exchange? It was at this point, guys, white to play. Imagine, look, try and guess what black missed at this point. He played a4. Ronak played knight to c5, and then black played knight a5. And now it's white to play and win in exchange. This one's a bit easy for most of you guys, I guess. But I think for the other half who didn't get a chance to guess the previous question, they have the chance to answer this one. I don't know, honestly, Abhijit. I think he would love to have Alan with him if he can logistically make it happen. Travel and the other things. And of course, Prague is an important tournament. It is. It's not about the prestige, but the level of opposition is right up there. Yes, guys, correct. Knight d7, knight d7, which was missed by his opponent though. So not as trivial as you would think. Knight d7, attacking both the queen and the rook simultaneously. Queen d8, knight into f8, queen into f8, and now knight to d2, covering the c4 pawn. And whenever black takes this a3 pawn, white just plays rook e1 and captures back the a4 pawn. So it's a clear advantage for white. And now, oh my God! Look at this blender Ronak made. Can you find it? Can you find it before opponent does? Oh my God! He's blundered. Rook f7 is a massive blunder. I think it's a fatigue, guys. The brain gets fried when you play for so many hours in a day. There's a limit even for these wonder kids, these awesome juniors, these little amazing kids. And can you find it before the opponent does? Black to play. What did Ronak miss? Ronak has blundered here, and in a very uncharacteristic way. He's not going to be happy about that. But it's been a tough day for him, and these things happen. It's normal. There's only so much your PFC can take in a day. His opponent has also missed it. Oh my God! How is this? And he spent how much time to play that move? Abhinav, you're right. You're right, but your coordinates are wrong. The I don't know. I don't know why it's why the coordinates are not outside. We'll fix that again from the next round. But yeah, black had this rook into a4, rook into a4, knight b2. I can understand Ronak missed it after playing for 6 hours in a day, but his opponent also missed it. Oh my God, chat! You guys found it. Shout out to all of you guys, starting from Abhinav Gupta to Abhijit Mishra, Jayant, and all the rest. Wow, that's an incredible miss, but that's human chess, guys. That's how humans function. We make mistakes. So this is winning for Ronak, guys. Let's have a quick look at the other games. Let's conclude that this is winning for white. Let's have a look at how the other people are doing. Harsha is doing better this one. He's playing against Grandmaster Pavel Tregubo, who is actually the husband of a very popular chess figure, another Grandmaster. Can you guess who it is, chat? Do you know who it is? And if you don't, can you guess who it is? A quick look at this. I think Harsha is doing perfectly fine here. He's down by a pawn, I guess, from the initial outlook. Yeah, he's down by a pawn, but he's doing fine. His pieces are better placed. His pawn structure is ugly. Moving on. Botnik against Bharat Subramaniam. He has 5 pawns. Black has 6 pawns. So Botnik has 1 pawn less, but he has 1 rook more against a bishop. And Jayant, you have answered it correctly. He's the husband of Alexandra Kosteniuk. So it's a nice position for white here, slightly better, but black is also not doing bad, and there's a pretty high chances of saving this game. Rakhmano against Sham Sundar. Sham is struggling here. He has a bad position, and he's down by an exchange, but he has some hopes in the form of trying to attack the white's king. The white king stands a bit exposed. Harika against Swish. Oh my god, Harika's completely winning. And guys, it's like it's almost like white to play and win. There's a beautiful move here for white. Let's see if we can try and find this before Harika does. And this is amazing stuff by Harika. She won the second round and now she's winning in the third round as well. And she's doing it against some pretty strong grandmasters rated about 2600. I think we have to go Harika OP in the chat. We'll get quickly to Arjun's game, but let's find out what amazing move Harika has here. What she played in the game, Rook G1, is also not bad at all, but she had something even stronger here. Something very powerful that was destroying Black's position completely. It was like the Catalan of tactical moves in this position. What move did Harika have here? Yes, exactly, guys. It was 96. 96 was deadly. It was powerful. And it exploits the pin on the h5 e8 diagonal, and if f into e6, then there's queen d8 check, rook g8, queen into g8, and the spawn queens. And if black doesn't take the knight, then white just takes knight into g7, and it's gg. Now what she played with rook g1, it's also winning, but it's not as winning as the other move. Now she has to continue the grind a little bit. But let's get to the Arjun game before the game gets over. And this is a pawn up for Arjun, and more importantly, he has 1.5 minutes more than his opponent. So there's a lot of flagging that goes on in the Rapid Chess Championship. Let's take it from where we left it. His opponent played bishop c6, natural move. Knight c7 check, king d7, and now d5, opening up the d5 against the king, queen into c7, d into c6 check, king into c6. Now this king is out there and exposed. So Arjun has done really well out here in the opening. Queen e4 check, king b6, rook h3, bringing a new piece into the play, rook b3, bishop g2. All these moves coming in. Rook d8. Now rook c3 attacking the queen. Bishop to c5. The bishop blocks it, bringing a new piece. Rook d5. And now he takes the king towards safety because his attack has been kind of stalled. So king f1, queen d7, rook e1. I think Arjun played all normal moves. I think his opponent's position just got consolidated. Rook b3 with the idea of c4, rook b8, queen into h7. What's happening? Rook f5. Yeah, all this is fine. Takes, g6. King g2, queen d4. It prevents defense e3, f2 pawn. Now rook a4, queen d2, rook e2, queen f4. Are they going to repeat and make a draw? Because otherwise it gets dangerous for Arjun. He wouldn't want to make this draw, but it can get very dangerous if white continues on. And I don't see a good way for him to do that. So I think he has to be very careful here. And there's a good chance we might see a repetition, but you never know. These guys are just experts at keeping the game going. They're just amazing at doing that. And he plays c3, and the computer hates it. It calls it a blender. The evolution bar just spikes up like the blood pressure of I can't find a good analogy though. But yeah, the evaluation bar spikes towards black side, and there's bishop d6, queen h2 check, and rook d8 with the idea of rook d3, rook d1. f2 is a weakness. It's looking bad, guys. It's looking bad for Arjun, and now he can't bail out with rook e4 either. So I think he really underestimated his opponent's attacking potential here, and rook d3 is actually a deadly threat. Yeah, queen d7 with the idea of queen f6, rook d3. Now the problem is if you play queen f6, black can just take rook into f3. So maybe he missed this at some point, or more likely that he just didn't think through it, and now he's just completely lost. I'd say it's kind of well deserved because he underestimated black's defensive possibilities. King h3, or Anshika, blood pressure of a NEET student with 2 weeks to go. C4. Arjun should have taken a draw with rook e4, rook e2. He should have just repeated. Now he's down a piece. He's trying to flag his opponent, but 1.5 minutes is just too much for Matthias Bluebam. I think he's just going to lose this one, guys. And we should probably also move on and have a look at the Raunak game. Raunak is completely winning. There was this massive, queen h8 check, king e7. And is it game over, guys? Is there some rook into e6? There's amazing amount of tactics being missed in this game. Look at this. He played king f8 and now there's rook into e6 and both of them missed this. It's a very, very, very now queen h8 check or king g5, king h6. Is he going to come? Oh no, king g5, there's queen c1 check. So Raunak still has some work to do. I mean, he's completely winning, but the way they have been missing tactics in this game, I think anything can happen. Wow, Abhinav. All the best for your exam. It's queen f6 check, king e8. Isn't that... Oh, queen c1 check, Raunak just intends to go queen f4. He's safe and he's going to bring his king to g7. He's going for style in place of substance. He could have won it a lot easier and quicker, but he prefers to do it in style. And don't go, Anshika, don't go. The chat is just not the same without you. King g7, d2. And now he pays attention to the d pawn. He just takes it, yeah. Oh, rook h1. Rook h1 with the idea of rook h8 mate. It's almost as if the evaluation bar is playing snooker. Now, just take this and play rook d1 and end the game round. No need to... See, we have to win first. There's no need to just... Yeah, exactly. Cool. It's a win for Raunak. It's a loss for Arjun. He's lost. He lost against Bluebam. We have that result officially. Raunak is winning. Let's have a look at the other games. This is a draw, but Harsha will win on time. Tregabo has no time. And it's a... He can take rook into f4 actually. It's a brutal flagging tournament, this one. Yeah, Harsha has won. So he goes to 1 out of 3. And what? Why does white have so little time? This guy, Alexander Botny, he plays really fast, guys. So he has only 20 seconds, but he plays really fast. Harika has won, by the way, guys, against Pierce Darius. Let's have Harika OP in the chat again. Very nice game, and she has 2 out of 3. And she's just such an amazing role model and a great ambassador for the game. And look at the speed at which Botnik is playing. I don't know if you can see the exact speed because these moves are happening so fast. But this guy really accelerates and plays fast when he has less time. Now this pawn goes to b2. This pawn should have gone to f3 check. Yeah, now it goes. And now rook into b2 and king into f2 should make a draw. But I think he'll try to flag Bharat. Bharat not as much experience as Botnik in this flagging game. So I think Botnik will try to flag him, and it's going to be not easy for Bharat to get this one. It's a bit weird. It's super weird to see so many moves happen at once, but that's how this interface is for the moment. And he's even lost this piece, and also white cannot lose this one because black was only having a bishop. But yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, now he's even getting mated. Yeah. So Botnik wins that even as he has only 1 second remaining, just about a second. And that is round 3, guys. At the end of round 3, a quick look at the standings before we go into a short break. Raunak with 2.5 points out of 3, the top Indian and 9th overall. And Harika with 2 out of 3. Bharat with 1. And we have Arjun somewhere in between with 1.5 out here on 26th. He needs to score heavily in the next few rounds. Harsha with 1 out of 3 and Sham Sundar with half out of 3. So that's the end of round 3, guys. We will quickly head towards a break and be back for round 4. Meanwhile, do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
He blunders his rook.
Why?
And Magnus wins the game. And that was a lesson in just pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He's getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. Ishiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next move. He's gonna win it, and he's gonna take the lead in this tournament. Carlsen playing against the youngster from Uzbekistan.
Abdusatorov has beaten some really strong players in this tournament, and that makes me kind of optimistic about his chances against Magnus here.
And Magnus now is going to give up another pawn. Wow, look at this. For the second time, Magnus is giving up pawns in order to just get rid of them. There's a check coming in here from Abdusatorov, and Magnus resigns. Abdusatorov takes the lead after a win against the reigning champion. Carlsen will have the opportunity to strike back with the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi.
Magnus is probably regretting this knight cd5. Now he's definitely forced to be playing for the draw.
He's not going to be catching Jan Nepomniachtchi.
That was surely a very disappointing game with the white pieces.
It's the big matchup of this round. If Kostenyuk makes a draw with the black pieces, she will be crowned world champion.
I would have to give the edge to white in this position because of the permanent nature of black's king problems.
I agree that this is an advantage for white. What? It's over! Kostenyuk is the champion!
Yes, Kostenyuk, she had a wonderful tournament, a very convincing first place with 9 points.
Alexandra Kostenyuk, the new women's rapid world champion.
Nakamura facing off against Carlsen. We've been waiting for this pairing, and it couldn't have happened at a better time when everything is on the line.
Magnus moved his rook and no longer is trapping that king on the edge of the board.
Yeah, I mean, rook a5 is a pretty good move, but also king g2, as you said. And
Magnus gives it up. It's a draw, and the rules of the event stipulate that only the 2 players with the best tiebreak score will be allowed to play the playoff. Third place, then the bronze medal for Carlsen. It is Abdusatorov getting ready for the game. He will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia. And Black's king doesn't manage to get back to defend the pawn. So Jan Nepomniachtchi is steering this game towards a draw. And that means Norderbeck is going to have the match ball with the white pieces in the next one. Nepomniachtchi getting rid of that last black pawn. Norderbeck getting rid of the white pawns. The guys shake hands. The white king is trying to run away from the checks. The rook just keeps checking in on that white king. Can the king get away? Both players are down to just 10 seconds on the clock. The king is finding shelter on the side of the board. Now he's returning to that checkmating idea that Irina identified earlier on. And now here comes the new queen.
Yes,
the new queen comes in, and then he's going in for the checkmate. Nepomniachtchi will have to, and he resigns. Nordirbek Abdusaturov is the new Rapid World Champion.
Wow, this is an amazing turn of events. I mean, what a special moment that we're witnessing.
The World Rapid Champion, Nordirbek Abdusaturov. That is going to be a name to remember for the future. Only 17 years old and already a world champion.
Welcome back, chat, for round 4 of the Rapid Chess Championship presented by Coinbase. And we are here with Ronak's game against Xu Xianggu. Now, guys, the Rapid Chess Championship started as a format which was open only for the top 100 in the world. And this was quite an intense format, and it was so hard to score points. And Vidit was the only one who was consistently scoring points around that time. And he qualified to the knockouts for 4 times in that format in 4 weeks. And with that format, there were around 30 to 35 players in participating in the tournament, out of which 8 qualified, and the pawns required to qualify ranged between 5.5 to 6.5. This was the normal one. And post that, it was opened up to all the different grandmasters in the world. And with that, the number of players who participated increased. And with that, the points required to qualify into the top 8 is also increasing. So you have to score heavily, but the opposition you face is also relatively weaker. And Ronak's getting grandmasters rated around 2500 to 2600, whereas in the previous format, he would have faced a lot of people rated about 2650 to 2700. So this is the format, the history of the Rapid Chess Championship. It's the 17th week right now. They have been playing for a really, really long time. Queen to c5. So that's a brief history of the championship. And now getting back to the chess part, it started off as a Trompowsky attack, d4 knight f6, bishop g5. And against this, d5 is one of the most solid lines. So this is what Ronak played. e3. You can either play c6 here or c5. Both of them work, but c5 is a good move. And white can take bishop at f6 here. That's one of the lines. And the other way to do it is to refrain from taking on f6. So this is what Xu Xianggu did. c3, queen b6, queen c2. And now knight to e4, attacking the bishop. Bishop had to move. Now bishop f5 with the idea of knight g3. A deadly threat. So white has to defend with bishop d3, but he chose to insert d into c5 first. And chat, now what happens if black takes with knight into c5, attacking the queen? What happens? How does white respond here? Because you want to distract this queen and then try and take the b2 pawn. You want to take this because then the a1 rook is trapped. This seems like a pretty nice trick, right? It looks like the kind of trap that your opponent is likely to fall into. So why doesn't this work? Why does the evaluation bar hate this? And what is the trick here? Knight into c5 and white 2. Let's flip it so it's also easier for you guys to answer it. Yeah, knight into c5. Let's go, chat. White to play. What do you do? Chat is pretty smart, I have to say. How did you guys get so good? Is it from watching streams? Is it from doing lots of Puzzle Rush? Or is it something else? Or is it from... Okay, never mind. I'm not going to get that narcissistic. Yes, guys. S Inferno, S Madhur, S Ayush. It's queen into f5, queen into b2. And now there is queen c8 checkmate. This is the point. Shout out to all of you guys, Madhur, Ayush, Chess Fan, and Giant. So this works, and this is the reason why Black took queen into c5, couldn't take with the knight. Then the game goes on, bishop d3, then this knight got traded. Knight f3, knight c6, short castle a5, rook ac1. Pretty dull position, pretty equal. And but also with black, you would be happy to get a position like this. Now, moving on to Jumabai against Arjun. Arjun is playing super fast. He continues with the Benoni, which he played recently against Vantika and survived with barely. He just barely survived. He was completely lost in that game. But he repeats it against Jumabai. It's a different format altogether, I would say. 10 plus 0 and 15 plus 10, not even in the same pin code. 15 plus 10 is so much more time. 10 plus 0, you don't have increment, and it's only 10 minutes. So, totally different format. And here there's a lot less time. You have to play a lot faster. I used to love these time controls when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I like having more time. So, this is better for white, but 4 minutes gap. That's just too much in this format of 10 plus 0. So I think Arjun has a bit of an edge, not in terms of position, but in terms of time. Let's look at how Harika is doing. She deserves a lot more coverage. She's been doing amazingly well. And look at this guy. She's playing against a 26-51 opponent. She herself is 25-17. And she's completely better. I'm curious how she got to this position. Let's see it from the beginning. Knight f3, knight f6, g3, g6, bishop g3. It's all symmetrical. Now c3, knight to e4, and now c4. Guys, do you think this is a mouse slip? It's not a mouse slip, but it's a very weird thing to do. Play c3 and then after knight e4 to play c4. It's not a mouse slip, but people do it for some pretty complex reasons. And now look at this, guys. Black played knight c3, a4, knight into a4, and now d into c4. Now what happens if white takes queen into c4? Why couldn't he do that? Harika set this up after a4. She started with it. White took knight into a4, and now black took d into c4. So why exactly did she start with a4? What's the point? Why did she start with a4 and then take d into c4 here? This is the question. Now what if white takes queen into c4? It's not so difficult, but you calculate it in your head, and it's not so bad for white either, I think, to take queen into c4, although he didn't do that in the game. And the current position that he has, he's better, but he's not he's worse. The current position he has is worse. So maybe this was a point where he could have done better. Yes, chat. Yes. You're right. Queen into c4. There is the b5 fork. But guys, the thing is, it doesn't really end there. It goes on because the queen can move and attack this knight. And now black has to take one of these pawns, knight into g3 or knight into f2. But white was already up a pawn. So this is just equal material. And white is not doing too bad. Probably you had to take knight into f2, rook into f2, and now rook into a4. It's not bad, guys. It's not bad for white. He should have taken queen into c4. Playing queen c2 was actually a bad move. And it is here that Harika got better. She played bishop f5. And now this queen doesn't have a good space. Good place. This knight on e4 is well defended. g4, bishop into g4, queen into e4. The point is bishop into f3 comes with a tempo attacking the queen. So bishop into f3, bishop into f3, rook into a4. And this is how Harika won a pawn. And yeah, this is the live position that we have right now. Knight a6, black is pawn up, bishop into c6, there is knight b4, c1 is not developed, a1 is not out into the game, and it's a really nice position for black here. So this is Harika's game. How is Harsha doing? It's a pretty boring position. Equal time. It's hedgehog. He breaks with d4, but it's all long and technical, and it's not so bad for black. The knight is coming on to f4. Then there's some knight into d4. So let's not spend too much time here, chat. It's also getting into the night, and we want to try and keep things as interesting as possible, so we all can stay awake. Wow, guys, look at this. Look at this. This is exactly what we are searching for. We came for this, and look at what a moment. Shyam Sundar, the coach of the Indian women's team, one of the coaches, and look at how he plays queen into e3, bishop c6, and how he sets things up with queen h6, creating a mating threat, taking advantage of the pin on the g file and creating a mating threat. Black defended it with bishop f6, and now white to play. You guys just saw this, so no point asking you about it. But rook into d6, what a beautiful tactic. Queen into d6, rook into g7, check, and that is the spin. Black has to take king h8. There is queen into h7 mate. So bishop into g7, queen into d6, rook e8, and now knight to a5, and this bishop is lost. So Shyam seems set to win, to have his first win in the history of his life in Rapid Chess Championship. This is his debut in this, and he seems set to win his first ever game. So Shyam Sundar seems set to have his first win. And the other game we haven't looked at is the game of his student, Bharat Subramaniam, who has white pieces against a pretty strong opponent, Deek Bogdan Daniel. It's interesting that Bharat has only, I think he has only 1 out of 3, but he's playing such a strong opponent. And the position is all close. It just closed. There's again a lot of maneuvering, and not a single pawn has been traded so far in this game. So this one's going to be a bit long and drawn out. And once again, let's not spend too much time here, because guys, today this is what my 7th hour of streaming, and there's a chance that I could also fall asleep during the stream. So let's try and keep it as interesting as we can in terms of the positions we are looking at. This one's closed. Not quite boring, but it's going to be a long and protracted struggle and a lot of technical maneuvering and stuff. So let's get back to the Arjun game with Jumabai, where it's a interesting Benoni, where Arjun has been in such an angry mood today after whatever caused that he has been punishing his own knight on a8 by not giving it any freedom to stretch its legs. Now he's becoming kinder with knight c7, but still it was a pretty sad situation for that knight. Imagine having no space to stretch your legs. That's what this knight was doing on a8, and it was struggling, and it was literally crying in pain, and that's why I tuned back into this game. So I came here, and immediately he plays knight c7. Everyone needs someone to keep a watch on them. So for me, I have my chat and my mods who are ruthless. So knight c7, e5, but Jumabai has only 2 minutes and Arjun has more than 4 minutes. I think he's going to flag this one. So before we get too deep into this game, let's also have a look at the Ronak game, because he has 2.5, and right now he seems to have the best shot of qualifying. White has 2 bishops, but they're not really playing so actively right now. It's more of a namesake 2 bishops. Like, imagine this thing which people keep it so that it looks good, but it's actually not functional. Like, which one comes to your mind? For me, I can't think of anything immediately. Is it fair to point my phone? I mean, I don't want to name it out in the stream, but that's the feeling I have about my phone. What about you guys? What do you have in your life which feels like it looks good, but it's not really functional. It need not be restricted to things. Feel free to pour your heart out in the chat. Getting back into the chess part, it looks like Raunak is trying to push in this game. The position is equal. His opponent is trying to keep things safe. But Raunak is out for blood. He wants to win this. He wants to qualify once again to the knockouts of the Rapid Chess Championship. He has to get into the top 8 in today's tournament to achieve that. And I can feel that fire and motivation from him. So Rook C8, Bishop C2, and now he goes Rook C4. Guys, come on, more replies. What are all the people doing? So Raunak is just moving back and forth for the moment. He has like this 40-second advantage, and as long as he keeps his position safe, he's going to win this one on time. And at some point, he might be able to outplay his opponent as well. This is a status update in Raunak's game. We'll be back for the end of this game, but let's have a look at how Harika is doing, who's been amazing. I'm sorry, this is Harika. Yeah, who has been amazing, but this one's ended in a draw already, guys. So Harika has ended it in a draw, and Sham has won again for the first time ever in the history of Rapid Chess Championship. I think I should send him a congratulations text on this memorable first win done. And Harsha is completely winning against Darini Puria, the grandmaster from Iran. Bharat has the same closed position. I guess one of the reasons, it's the same closed position, but Bharat is a bit better. He's doing well, guys. His opponent is ridiculously strong. Deep Bogdan Danielis. Look at his rating, 2671. Okay, so let's get back to the Arjun game once again. And his opponent has less than a minute, guys. I think we should stick to this one. Arjun is completely losing. He's down by an exchange. But his opponent has less than a minute. And let's see if the ruthless flagging of Arjun prevails, or his opponent shows that it's chess that's going to prevail regardless of the time. Oh my god. So many interesting answers there. My degree with respect to my work looks good, not functional. Nilanjana. I wonder if my grandmaster title is also sometimes similar. Which degree is it, and which work, if I may ask? And my sum of school knowledge, Inferno, and the chemistry book. Okay, guys, getting back to chess once again. Queen to a5, queen h4. And now queen c3. The queen comes back with the idea of bishop g3. So, oh my god, that's a lot of moves. Now Jumaba is playing really fast, but with 20 seconds, how much can he do? Like, even if he wins the queen, can he really do a lot with 20 seconds is the question. Queen e4 played by white, knight f5. The bishop moves back, but now Arjun, look at him. Let's see the art of flagging from Arjun. Okay, he repeats knight f6, knight d7, dangling that hope of a draw to his opponent, and then ruthlessly plays queen f8. And look at this, he's just blundered. He's just blundered and given up this piece, and he didn't do this intentionally. So knight into d6, queen into d6, he's thinking. Let's see how Arjun, if he even manages to flag his opponent from here. I no longer take it for granted. And poor Arju, he's not going to feel good about that. Look at the amount of pawns. And with bishop f5, the knight is attacked. Bishop f8 check is coming. Guys, what do you think? Do you think Arjun's going to be able to flag this one? I don't think so. At the very least, white should take this pawn. White should take this pawn. Oh my god, this is a bad move. Bishop to g7 is a terrible move. You have to take this pawn. You have to take this pawn. And then it's a draw. Yeah, now it's a draw. And he takes it. He takes it with his very last move. And Jumabayev has managed to make a draw despite playing against a monstrous, ruthless flagger. It's a bit over the top, but that's the pain of so many of my own personal losses against Arjun coming out, getting exposed there. But unfortunate for Arjun, I can imagine him being very frustrated and being on a tilt there. He's not going to feel happy about it. In recent times, the results are not going his way by his own very high standards that he sets for himself. So he's going to feel frustrated about that. But Ronak, on the other hand, this E pawn is a monster. So is this B pawn of white, but this E pawn is better supported by black's pieces. Bishop b5 is a strong move. The threat is rook into e5, rook into e5, b7, and bishop b5 takes control of the e8 square. So this is a strong move. And objectively, this is better for white because, you know, you have the bishop, and in these types of positions, bishops can do dual role. They can prevent the opponent's pawn, and they can... oh, he's lost this. Bishop into b7 and then e2. After e2, there's no way to stop this pawn. So Ronak prevailing there, he prevails under pressure. He makes the more accurate moves, and he moves into 3.5 out of 4. This is amazing performance by Ronak, and he looks set to qualify into the Rapid Chess Championship knockouts for the second week in a row. So that sums up round 4, guys. And a quick look at the standings. It's Feroce with 4 out of 4 along with Jeffrey Chong. We have a couple of people on 3.5 out of 4, and there we see Levon Aronian and Raunak Sadhwani. Probably Raunak against Levon the next round. And then we have a bunch of people at 3 points, none of them Indians, but some pretty strong players out there. And we have Harika at 2.5, the 20th place, along with very strong players like Dubo and Andrekin also at 2.5. And Harsha Bhartakoti, Bharat Subramaniam, and Arjun Erigasi, all of them with 2 out of 4, and Sham Sundar with 1.5 out of 4. That's the end of that's the standings at the end of round 4, and we'll be back after a short little break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move. He made a pre-move. King g3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
far.
like defending the, you know, checkmate on f7 with his life.
Hey guys, we're quickly back after that short little break because, you know, if I took break any longer, we would have missed the ending of this Rana game, which looks set to end in a Berlin draw. And I knew that this was going to happen, so I quickly hopped back in before it happens. And it can happen anytime now. So Raunak playing against Aronian, and Aronian is thinking, I'm curious what he's thinking about, how if there is really a way where he can you know, bypass this Berlin draw. But Raunak is pretty smart this way. He gets into this pole position, he gets a few quick initial wins, and then he starts playing it safe. He starts making these quick draws, and Aronian is going for it. He's going for it. He plays d6 and Raunak playing e6. So there is a way to dodge this draw, and let me just quickly set up the different games before we get too deep into these games. So I'll set up the 6 Indian players. I'll be back in just about 30 seconds. Meanwhile, do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll just be back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move. He made a pre-move. King g3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
far.
like defending the, you know, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece.
We are back for the round 5 of the Rapid Chess Championship, and it's Raunak against Levon Aronian. Raunak has 3.5 out of 4, and his opponent refused to repeat. It was this position, and we have seen numerous games ending in a draw after this little repetition. But this one didn't go that way. And the game goes on. And let's see how this one turns out. But let's have a quick opening roundup of the other games. Harika is playing against Dubo. And how did this pawn get onto g5? It started out with y e4 e5 and the 4 knight scotch defense. This is one of the most solid openings that you can do as white against 1 e4 e5, where it's hard to lose with the white pieces. Bishop b4, knight into c6, b into c6, bishop d3, and here Dubo went d6. d5 is the move which goes into this super solid line, and Dubo goes d6, which keeps the game going, and there's a bit more excitement. He puts his knight onto e5 and then gets up onto g5 so that the knight stays in an outpost. So knight on e5, pawn on g5. Harika goes in with the knight to a4 with the idea of getting this pawn to c4, gaining some space, seizing some control. Bishop a5, c4, c5, a3, bishop e6, queen c2, and g4. This is the position that we have in the board right now, and it looks good for Harika, guys. This pawn on g4, it looks nice and everything, but once again, getting back to that situation, the example, the things that we had discussed just a bit earlier. It looks good, but in terms of function, and with rook b1, Harika goes with the threat of b4, and also to get c5 later on. And Dubo has this very annoying and unpleasant threats to deal with, and the c5 pawn looks set to be taken and lost. So Harika is also playing really well and is in contention for getting into the top 8, into the knockouts. Meanwhile, the other game is of Arjun against Durar Bailey. And this one's, again, guys, guess the opening. Guess the opening from where this came from. But it's not going well for Arjun. Arjun is playing fast, but he's in a tilt. And this one's certainly not going great for him right now because he just lost a pawn. He has a good deal of compensation. He's forcing h into g5, h into g5, and trying to get towards black's king. But it's not looking great for the moment. Black seems to be under control. So this is the status update in Arjun's game. But once again, which opening did this position come from? Now you can't figure it out by just looking at the position. So you have to base it on your knowledge of Arjun. You have to play the person, not the position, like Harvey Specter. Yeah, bishop g6 takes. It's a very nice tactic. You take the f7 pawn, but by itself not so damaging for black, and black can just move the queen away. Queen into f7 check, king d6, and for now I think black should be stable. Let's say queen e5, queen into f7 check. No, queen e5 runs into f4, so the queen has to go to a different place. Queen into f7 check, king d6, and now f4. Guys, it's a Jobawa London. The Jobawa London. Arjun started with the Jobawa London. Now, how hard is that to guess? It's Arjun. Exactly, Anshika. Exactly. Oh, wait. Did this exactly happen in the game? Oh, he played queen e5. Wow. That played into Arjun's hands. But even then, I think black is not doing badly at all. He gets his rook to h4, but it's complex, guys. It's complex, and I think now the game has turned a bit towards Arjun's side because he has a 4-minute advantage. The position remains complex, and it's not going to be. It's going to be pretty interesting how this one turns out. How the other games? Harsha Bhattakoti, nice position. He has the opposite color bishop. Bad pawn structure for black here. This is really comfortable for white, although it's not so easy to make progress. But getting the knight to d3, the pawns on c6, the pawn on c7, the pawn on a7, all these weaknesses. And Harsha has won 2 games in a row, so he would look forward to carry his momentum forward. But it's a really nice position out for Harsha so far. And he started with bishop c4, knight f6, d4 into d4, e5. He played this exact opening against another Indian GM only today in another tournament. Now, for those who are following chess really closely, you would be able to guess which one it is against whom he played. So if you do write your answer in the chat. But yeah, this is the position right now. Harsha a bit better, but a bit low on time. Let's have a look at Bharat Subramaniam, who's playing against the world rapid champion, Nodibek Abdusatro, the world rapid champion. And the position is crazy. Black has 5 pawns, white has 6 pawns. But black has just captured 1 pawn. He makes it equal. But if he captures with knight, which he has to, now once again, white has 1 more pawn. But after queen e7, which I expect to happen, the game will go into this endgame where white has to choose between losing the h5 pawn or the d4 pawn. And I think, yeah, so it's pretty balanced, I would say. Now rook c6, rook into a6, white can get one pawn back, but I think sooner or later it's all going to even up. So this is the situation here, and Bharat doing well. It's pretty equal. He goes king d6, in fact. He prefers to keep the queens on. Pretty brave decision by him, but he is also very good at these kind of situations himself. So it's understandable that he's backing himself towards it. And let's have a look at Sham Sundar against Melkumian. Sham's position not looking great, guys. It's not looking great. This bishop is a monster bishop, and combined with this rook, generally it's bad news. This knight will get out of the way, and there will be a deadly attack on g7. Not going to be easy for Sham to defend against this, but let's see. He would love to get his knight onto e5, but let's say something like knight d7, there is a strong move with f4. This bishop on f5 will be captured if there's an on person, and if you don't, then white just goes h5, knight e2, knight g3, and rains fire on g7. It's a good question, mother. Queen e7, rook e7, but the problem is the queen on e7 is defended by the f5 knight. I think this is what you're asking, rook c7 check, but it's defended, so it doesn't work. So this is our roundup of all the 6 Indian games. Getting back to the main game of the round, Raunak against Levon Aronian, and here it's 4 pawns versus 4 pawns, but Levon is a bit better, and I think he's a bit motivated to beat Raunak, who must be a bit raging that his opponent didn't accept the draw offer in the opening. There's a literal draw offer in with the Berlin repetition. Aronian didn't go for it, and the position is still equal, but yeah, the position is still equal. C into d4, it will be 3 pawns against 3 pawns, but in general the bishops is always a bit better than knight in these kind of situations. So c into d4 just taken by white, and now it's not so easy for black to find a way to make progress. We'll get back to this one pretty quickly after having a look at the Harika game against Dubo, which is also of substantial interest, but it has petered towards a draw. We see an opposite color bishop here, and although there is the presence of rooks, I think it might even get repeated here. Rook c8, rook c7, rook c8, rook c7, rook c8, rook c7. So Harika had a really promising position, but unfortunately, it has petered towards a draw. And Harika is playing really well, but she needs to get a few wins going in order to get into the knockouts, into the top 8, which will happen tomorrow. Arjun against Durard Bailey. Arjun once again in that zone of flagging, but once again, it's not going to be easy to complete it. Queen into b4, queen into b4, g7. This pawn is unstoppable. So this is why he gave up his queen, sacrificed his queen. Queen into b4, queen into b4, g7. But now black has knight into b3. And this one's very tricky, guys. I have the evaluation bar with me, so I know it's 0.00. The players don't know. g8 queen. And now there's only one move for black which achieves the draw. And Durard Bailey has to calculate this in a few seconds and play it out. He has played this till this point. He has made the most till this point. And now he has to, I think this he will do because it's pretty in front of you. You go knight c5 check because you need to take this bishop. And then with queen c3 and queen into d3, you create a draw. Arjun went king a2 here, but queen a4 check, king b2, queen b4 check, king c1 take, and this looks set to go towards a draw. So Arjun will need to probably win all 4 games in the last 4 rounds to be able to qualify to the knockouts in this one. Now he's trying to keep the game going for as long as he can. He's just running away with his king. His opponent has like 54 seconds. So he's trying to do this, but this can also backfire like it did in the last game. He just blundered and he was completely losing against Jumabaya. It's a dangerous strategy. It can go either way. Raunak has drawn his game against Aronian, by the way. It went into this 2 versus 2 endgame. So it was all extra effort from Aronian there, but not too much avail. And he goes to 4 out of 5. Harika against Dubo is going on. Dubo is trying to keep the game going, but I don't think he's going to get a lot out of this. It's really solid and equal. Yeah, it's really solid and equal and set to go towards a draw. Arjun fighting on. His opponent has 30 seconds and he's trying to avoid repetition in a game where I think this one's going to be a draw by repetition. He can go king h8, but I think that would be too much. Trading the queens, he risks losing this one, so he has to take a draw. And there we have it, the 3rd time repetition from Durard Bailey versus. We just checked Harika Dubo. Yeah. So we have a draw in all these 3 games. Raunak, Harika, and Arjun. Harsha is down a piece. He had such a nice position. And how did this happen? He lost a piece. His opponent's piece has just got counterplay on the king side. It started with queen h5, queen d1 check, h2 is attacked. He gave up the h2 pawn to defend the c2 pawn. Queen into h2. Now he goes after the black pawns, but he's too slow. And the black pawns come all the way, h5, h4, h3. Knight into f6, g into f6, queen d8 check, king f7, queen into f6, king e8. And the black king easily found a refugee against the checks and he's losing this one. Oh, Shyam Sundar has won for the 2nd time in a row. And he won from this position. The knight went to e5. And his opponent took knight into e4 here. Perhaps not the best move. King f8, really nice move by Shyam. Preparing against knight f6, h6, g6, and now it was white who got into trouble practically. This knight on e4 stuck. He played rook to g3, knight into c4, creating a discovered attack. Queen into c4, queen into e4. The queens would have gotten traded, but his opponent went on for queen c3. Not a great decision because now after rook e5, he's in massive trouble. There's the threat of queen b1 check. There is a rook into d5 incoming, and after f4, it's just black to play and win. And Sham just played queen b1 check, king d2, rook into d5, and his opponent resigned at this point. So Sham moves to 2.5 out of 5, and Bharat, meanwhile, oh, he's completely lost. His opponent has 2 queens. How did this happen? He was not doing bad at all, but I think at some point this king d6 was a bit too risky, and after knight g3, knight into g3, queen f4 check, king d7, king into g3, white is just a pawn up, this h5 pawn prevailing, because rook into h5 would be met with queen f7 check. So Bharat's losing this one completely. He can continue on with oh wow, too many queens on the board. And the final game, the Harsha game against Vladislav Kovalev, is not looking great for Harsha, guys. Harsha is completely lost here. Let's have a quick look at the standings while we have this game going on. Fedosey with 5 out of 5, sole lead, and Ronak with 4 in the 4th place, the best amongst the Indians. We have Harika with 3 points, this next best Indian. Some games still going on. So oh my god, Hikaru has 2.5 out of 4. Wow, I didn't see that happening either. I wouldn't have imagined that Hikaru would have 2.5 out of 4 at the end of 4th rounds in a tournament like this with more than 50 players, where you need a high amount of points to get into the knockouts. Would be pretty interesting to see how that one happened. Meanwhile, the other Indians, we have Arjun with 2.5, we have Sham Sundar with 2.5, and Bharat Subramaniam has 2, and Harsha will also have 2 out of 5 end of this round if he loses this one. But he seems to be fighting. And this position is not even over, guys. There is a queen c7 check, there's bishop e5, there's the opposite color. Oh, it's ended in a draw. So Harsha has saved this, and he moves to 2.5 out of 5 with a draw. So we have Ronak at 4 out of 5. He's out there at the top. In the 4th spot, then we have Harika with 3 out of 5. And we have Arjun. We have Sham. And Harsha with 2.5 out of 5. And Bharat Subramaniam at 2 out of 5. And you're completely right, Ishan. Harika has more points than some pretty strong GMs like Dubo, Maksudlu, Kovalev, Arjun, and many strong GMs. So that's the end of round 5, guys. We'll be back in a really short time. Do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll be right back for round 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move. He made a pre-move. King g3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh.
Oh no!
He can't do it, it's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is...
Welcome back, everyone, to the round 6 of the Rapid Chess Championship. And Raunak takes on Jeffrey Chong, and it has started with the Petrov defense. Now, guys, the question is, how long is this game going to take for Raunak? Do you think he's going to make a quick draw, or do you think he's going to play on and try to be a bit more ambitious in this round? I think it's going to be a draw in a really short time. So we'll stay here for a bit for the first minute or two and try and see if we can catch the whole of this game of Raunak. Raunak with the white pieces against Jeffrey Chong. And for those who don't know Jeffrey Chong, he's most famous amongst the Indian YouTube audience for having played against Vidit Gujarati in this World Cup in Sochi. And he lost that one. But he got his revenge by defeating Vidit later in one of the Rapid Chess Championship knockout matches. It's a good question by Inferno. Why he played Bishop D3? It blocks the D3 pawn, but it also gets this bishop to C2 with C3 and Bishop C2. And this is a pretty nice development setup. Bishop D3, Bishop C2, then this pawn goes to D4, and then the knight comes to D2. And look at this, guys, it's a draw in 12 moves. I told you so. Someone said play on. I exactly predicted this. I so knew that we are going to have the end of this game before I blinked my eye. That is why I was so careful. I didn't blink my eye since the beginning of this game, and it ends in a draw. So that's Raunak against Jeffrey Chong. Let's have a look at Harika against Blue. Yes, he also won the match in the Olympiad against Vichy, but he lost one of the matches, so it was 1-1. And it's Harika against Blue. And to explain these draws in the Rapid Chess Championship, it kind of suits both the players because it helps both of them towards the qualification. As you see here, there are top 8 in your screen, and all of these people who are at the top, if they just don't lose any of the games, they are likely to get into the knockout bracket, the top 8. So that's the reason why they are happy with a draw in these stages. And getting back to this question, this game, Harika against Blue. Now, guys, how about we predict the opening of this game? This is not so difficult. You can predict the opening with just the setup, the pawn structure that we have. So, which opening is it? And in terms of the question, the reason, guys, how many of you have looked at the Vidit Hikaru game? Hikaru Vidit knockout. It was a 10+2 game, and it was the first of their knockout matches. They had 2. Hikaru prevailed in both of the matches, but it was an amazing fight. And how many of you remember this idea of Vidit from that game? King F7, F6, G5, H5, and this whole idea. Tanmay is asking, how do you feel about Raunak's decision? He does that in all the tournaments. Everybody does that in round 8, 9. Raunak does that since round 5. I think if it works for him, it works for him. I don't really criticize him because it's not like he's... it's an open tournament. It's not like he's being paid to play here. So I don't see why he owes anything to anyone, even, in terms of entertainment, because, he has to score, he has to win to earn money in a format like this. So in such a situation, what he does makes complete sense. And I think it's up to the organizers to design a format that discourages short draws rather than, put the burden on the players themselves who need to find ways to earn money. And it's not easy doing that as a chess professional player. So that's my 2 cents on it. And Aryan going for French, chess only going for Rogozin, but it was actually Caro-Kann. It started with e4, c6, d4, d5. That's why we have this structure. The pawns get exchanged, ED-CD, and this pawn comes to E6. Yes, Harika is incredibly strong. That is true. So this is this question, guys. It's I think practically a bit nicer for black, and Harika is a bit on the back foot, but she's not doing bad either. And there are these bishop h5 check related tactics. So let's say b5, knight into d4, and then there's bishop h5 check. If black goes knight to g6, then after g3, this knight is in trouble. But it's so hard to see this. The black queen has to go to either e5 or e4, and then there is finally knight c4 coming, but it's hard to see this. And Harika starts with bishop h6 check, knight g6, but I don't really expect her to go b5 here. And you can sense a lot more confidence from Blue compared to Harika, and he's playing a lot faster. So I think black is a slight favorite in this game. Moving on, yes, Ishan, bishop h5 was played and there was knight g6. Now moving on, the game between Kovalev against Shyam Sundar. Shyam once again in trouble. This bishop on g6, not a happy bishop. It's a sad bishop. And it's just hitting this pawn on e4, kind of grinding its teeth. All other pieces, this knight on c6 also not well placed. The white knight set to come to c5. So Shyam will need another big let off from his opponent to be able to win this one. It's looking tough for Shyam. The game between Demchenko and Bharat, it looks totally equal, set to go towards a draw. And we didn't see the Rakhmano Arjun game. Oh my god, we missed such an interesting game. Look at the board is on fire. How did we reach here? It started with English opening c4 e5, knight f3 e4, knight d4, knight c6, e3, knight f6, knight c3, bishop b4, queen b3. In fact, c4 e5, knight f3 e4 is, I think, not the most popular move here, and Arjun's really trying to go for it. He has had a bad week, but it's not going to last for long, guys. Arjun's not going to be held quiet for too long. Knight into castle, knight g3, rook e8, e4 is under fire. He defends it with all his might. Then white trades this f6 knight and gets the pawn on e4 finally. So he lost this e4 pawn, and then he tried to throw everything at white's king. So he starts with bishop a7, then the pawn to f5, then the knight goes to d4, and then after queen d1, d6, developing the bishop. Sacrificing this pawn. He's focusing totally on piece activity, and he's not too worried about material, because once he lost this pawn, he decided he had to go all in, and that's what he's doing now. He's going all in, knight to f5 with the idea of knight into e3, just trying to get towards white's king. And I think it might work. It might work, this strategy, because his opponent hasn't been too convincing for in this game. One tactical opening from white, it's hard to classify like that, guys. But if you want an opening with white, Catalan chess only. And one positional opening from black, well, Caro-Kann is a positional opening against e4. Queen's Gambit is a positional opening against d4, QGT. So this is my 2 cents. Getting back, having a look at some of the other games. This one's pretty equal. Swane against Harsha. Harsha has he started off with 2 losses in a row, but he's bounced back quite nicely. Harika against Bluebaum once again. Bluebaum's creating some pressure here, and Harika is a bit on the back foot, but she's keeping her position solid. Shyam Sundar against Kovalev. Shyam is actually not doing bad at all, guys. He's managed to get back. How did this happen this time? Bishop a7, king a7, knight c5, rook d6, rook e3 was perhaps not a great move by white. He already went wrong somewhere here. and underestimated black's counterplay, which started with bishop h5, knight into h4, knight into g5, and now knight f5. The rook is going to d2. Sham has enough time, and if he wins this, he's going to go to 3.5 out of 6. That would be pretty impressive. Sham is so underrated, not so well, not as well known as he deserves to be, and I'm really happy that he's playing so well here. He has 2.5 out of 5. Not the best of starts. He started off with half out of 3, but he's back here, guys. And now this bishop is coming to f3, rook into h3. His pieces are coming into white's camp, and yeah, bishop f3. White will probably go h4, but that's not a threat because there is always rook h1 checkmate. So h4, black can just go g6. This rook can come to h4, and it's looking very, very dangerous and risky for Kovalev. So Sham's doing it, guys. He's winning his 3rd game in a row. How amazing is that from Sham? I certainly didn't expect that, but it's also not surprising because Sham is actually pretty capable and underrated. The other game, Demchenko against Bharat, this looks totally equal. And let's also see if the student finishes higher or the coach finishes higher between Sham and Bharat. Getting back to the... Oh, Arjun has broken through, guys. He has broken through. We were at this point, and after knight c7, knight into e3, f into e3, rook into e3 check, the king was dragged out into the open by force. And here the position was really tricky. His opponent played king c1, which was a mistake because after queen f2, rook e1 was inevitable, and Arjun forces it, gets it through, and now he'll get his bishop onto d4, and it's basically game over. Queen to c2, a4, queen b3 check. Yeah, he plays a4. The point is queen c2, queen b3, queen into a3, and this bishop cannot develop in time to prevent it. So this is winning for Arjun. He will move to 3.5 out of 6 with this win, potentially along with Sham Sundar. He's still very, very, very far away from the standings, from getting to the top 8, but this will be a good start, and he will try to win the last 4 games and force his way through. Now white is losing the rook, and then Rachmanov resigns. A very strong GM, Rachmanov, rated about 2600, 2640, but this is according to the chess.com rapid ratings, not the FIDE rapid ratings. Now, the game between Swane and Harsha, it's 3 versus 2. It's pretty much a draw, but I think Harsha will keep trying. He has 1.5 minutes more, and Swane is short of time. So, Harsha will keep trying here, and you never know. He can win this. Oh yeah, we should. Oh my god, we tuned in at the exact moment of Blender. How did that happen? Why did... But yeah, I think she was losing control for a while, which was again expected the way the game was going. And here, if black had taken king into c5, then Harika had knight a6 check. But she took rook into b4, rook into b4, king into c5. And now it's pretty much game over, and Harika resigns. So she has lost this one, and the game against Kovalev, against Sham Sundar, there is still quite a bit of task left for Sham to win this game, because I don't imagine he would have a lot of practice in playing the 3+0 time control. With increment, it's a piece of cake for him, but without increment, he has to play fast, and this requires practice. Before we stick to this game, we'll have a quick look at the Bharat Subramaniam Demchenko game, where I think black is doing pretty okay here. It's 4 versus 4, the rook endgame. Bharat has 1 minute more, and h4 he can meet with h5, and it's pretty equal, I think. So going back all the way to the Shams in the game. I think this is the most interesting game. We'll stick on with this one for this round. And Sham is an exchange up, but he has to try and find a way to make progress to convert. And he's repeated once already. This rook, he has to give up the e4 pawn. He has to get this rook, pull his rook back, but he's repeated twice. He's an exchange up. Come on, Sham. Come on. If he plays rook f4 one move, I think it's going to be a draw. It's going to be a draw by repetition. I'm really curious what he's going to do because Sham, he's repeated. I can't say I'm surprised, but I have to say that I'm surprised. He had such a nice position, but I think he was a bit uncertain about his time situation. And you need practice to be able to back yourself in these types of situations. So it's understandable, but also a bit disappointing. Sham moves to 3 out of 6. Demchenko with the white pieces. He's pressing a bit against Bharat. He's offered a rook trade. If Bharat accepts that, then the pawn game is pretty lost for him because this king will get entry through d5. The king has 2 squares, e4 and d4, 2 entry pawns to d5. The black king has only 1 square, so the white king will keep moving back and forth, and king b6, king d5. And once his king gets entry, it will either take the b5 pawn from c5 or go towards f7. And this is winning for white. And the game between Swane and Harsha, this is basically 3 versus 2. And it's pretty it's objectively equal, but black has chances to flag this one. So let's take on to this game. And yes, France is probably without MVL and Alireza. You're right, Ishan. And yeah, I think US is the strongest in terms of their rating for sure. Oh, the Harsha game has ended in a draw. Harsha could not have flagged, I guess. It's too much. 53 seconds for his opponent. So he moves to 3 out of 6. And getting back to the Bharat game. This is not the position, guys. This is the position. Bharat is in a bit of trouble, though. He's in a bit of trouble, but it's not so easy to convert. J into f5, there is h5. Yeah, J into f5. Probably he'll take rook into h7 and then start moving this pawn. So it will be 2 passes against 2 passes, but white is a bit more advanced at the moment. So f5, J into f5, rook into h7, f4, h5, f3. The pawn goes to h6. This pawn goes to f2. Rook f7, rook h4, and now rook can take on f2. King d6 with the idea of rook f8 check. And yeah, it looks equal now. The rook kind of maintains out here. And white's trick was if black took rook into h6, then he played e6, and he could find a way to move on, keep the game on. This should also be a draw after king e8, but white can set some problems with something like rook a7, for example. But instead, what he played in the game, this one's just going towards a draw. And in these types of situations, yeah, he just keeps moving back and forth. And when white plays e6, then rook h1, king d6, and he gives non-stop checks, and it will be a draw. So yeah, e6, rook h1, and now they should make a draw, and there we have it. We have a draw by repetition, and that's the end of round 6, guys. It's been a lot of draws. Arjun won, but Harika unfortunately lost. And this is the standings. Fedosiev finally losing a game against Levan Aronian. Ronak out there in the top 8, pretty much firmly entrenched there. 4.5 points, half point even more than Hikaru. That's how impressive he's been today. And a bunch of players with 4 points: Hikaru, Hans Niemann, Alexei Sarana, and Maxim Matlako. Many strong players there. Arjun has 3.5 out of 6. He's there at the 18th place, along with some pretty strong players too. There is Parham Maksudlu, there is Paravian, Dubo, some pretty strong and young players there. And Arjun along with them at 3.5 out of 6. Harsha with 3, along with Harika, Sham, and Bharat Subramaniam with 2.5 out of 6. So that's the end of the 6th round, and we'll be back after a short little break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this
No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move. He made a pre-move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
poor.
like defending the, checkmate on F7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King E4. Oh, he should have played King E4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this
No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move.
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
He
He
blunders
did
his
that.
rook.
Why?
And Magnus
What if he's-
wins the game. And that
man.
was a lesson in just pressure, pressure, pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He is getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. And Shiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next move. He's gonna win it, and he's gonna take the lead in this tournament. Carlsen playing against the youngster from Uzbekistan.
Abdusatorov has beaten some really strong players in this tournament, and that makes me kind of optimistic about his chances against Magnus here.
And Magnus now is going to give up another pawn. Wow, look at this. For the second time, Magnus is giving up pawns in order to just get rid of them. There's a check coming in here from
Oh my God.
Abdusatorov, and Magnus
What?
resigns. Abdusatorov takes the lead after a win against the reigning champion. Carlsen will have the opportunity to strike back with the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi.
Magnus is probably regretting this knight cd5. Now he's definitely forced to be playing for the draw.
He's not going to be catching Jan Nepomniachtchi.
That was surely a very disappointing game with the white pieces.
It's the big matchup of this round. If Kostyanyuk makes a draw with the black pieces, she will be crowned world champion.
I would have to give the edge to white in this position because of the permanent nature of black's king problems.
I agree that this is an advantage for white. What? It's over! Kostyanyuk is the champion!
Yes, Kostyanyuk, she had a wonderful tournament, a very convincing first place with 9 points.
Alexandra Kostyanyuk, the new women's rapid world champion.
Nakamura facing off against Carlsen. We've been waiting for this pairing, and it couldn't have happened at a better time when everything is on the line.
Magnus moved his rook and no longer is trapping that king on the edge of the board.
Yeah, I mean, rook a5 is a pretty good move, but also king g2, as you said. And
Magnus gives it up. It's a draw, and the rules of the event stipulate that only the 2 players with the best tiebreak score will be allowed to play the playoff. Third place, then the bronze medal for Carlsen. It is Abdusaturov getting ready for the game. He will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia. And Black's king doesn't manage to get back to defend the pawn, so Jan Nepomniachtchi is steering this game towards a...
Hello everyone and welcome back to the round 7 of Rapid Chess Championship powered by Coinbase, and we have Ronak at 4 and a out of 6 guys. The last three rounds and Ronak at 4.5, Arjun at 3.5, and with everything to play here. So the last 3 rounds, Ronak plays the black pieces against Fedosi, who was on fire. He won the first 5 rounds, but he met a stumbling block in the form of Levon Aronian. And here we have the game right now. Black is a bit better here because of this pawn on e2 against the pawn on d4. The pawn on e2 a bit of a backward pawn. Fedosi is trying to create some inroads against black's queen side, but it's not so easy for him to make those inroads. And Ronak has a good position out of the opening, and Ronak sticking to his tried and tested strategy. Ronak sticking to his tried and tested strategy of getting there ahead, out there first, and then just being solid and letting his opponent, inviting him to take chances and taking risk and trying to just stay undefeated. So Ronak out there with 4.5 out of 6 and has a good position. Let's have a quick look at the all the different games, do an opening roundup before we go too deep into this game. We can conclude that black is doing okay here. This pawn structure is a better pawn structure. This pawn on d4 better than white's pawn on e2. The other game between Arjun is having white against Dubo, and a lot of moves have taken place, guys. But once again, before we go any further, chat, are you guys awake? I am awake. The chat was speculating if I was awake or not, but I am awake. And which opening took place in this game? Arjun with the white pieces. Let's see if you can get this right this time. I've already asked this question once, not so long ago, and only Anshika got it right. And guys, come on, we can do better than only Anshika getting it right. We can do so much better than that. So which opening did this position come from in this game? You can't do it, you can't deduce it from the pawn structure, but I told you a trick. And that is the trick. So which opening is it from? And in the present position, Arjun is better here. He has how many pawns? He has 2 pawns more than Dubo, but he has some challenges to take care of. The black pieces are quite active. They have good activity, good compensation. And yes, guys, it is the Jabawa London. It started with d4, knight f6, knight c3, d5, bishop f4, the Jabawa London. Shout out to Inferno. A bit tired of giving shout outs to Anshika, so for now, I think I'll refrain from it. And shout out to everyone else who got the right answer. It was the Jabawa London. In recent times, it's been synonymous with Arjun. Arjun is equal to Jabawa London. He's developed such a liking to this opening. I'm really surprised. Wouldn't have associated it with his style. But yeah, the Jabawa London, Arjun a bit better in this position, but it's a long way to go. And black has a lot of counterplay. So we'll get back to this one. Durarbeli with the white pieces against Harika, and white is a pawn up here. It started with a Sicilian defense, and Harika lost a pawn somewhere around here. White played the bishop, knight to b5, and after short castle c3, bishop c5, white just took this knight and took this pawn. Harika must have countered on rook d8, but the point is white had this move e5, and if black took queen into e5, then white had knight into f7, attacking both the queen and the rook at once. This was a complicated variation because it goes on king into f7, queen into d8, queen into e2, and black has two bishops against white's rook, but Harika refrained from taking queen into e5, kind of trusting her opponent, and that was not a good decision. Never trust. I mean, one thing is trusting the people close to you, but never trust your opponent. And now she's just pawn down for her effort, and white is just dominating in this position. Sham Sundar with the white pieces against Harsha, and something has gone majorly wrong for Sham Sundar here. And I really think he shouldn't have taken a draw in the previous game. And out here, he played this queen to f4. And guys, it's black to play, and go for your move. Thank you so much, Naveen. No, Anshika, there's no reason for justice. It should be more like justice for Srinath. And yes, guys, this is black to play. Which move did Sham fall into here? After which his position got really, really bad. Do figure that one out while, yeah, do figure that one out. So it's black to play. Meanwhile, the other interesting rounds, we should get back to Ferozi versus Ronak, which we'll quickly do. It's the most important round of this game. Andrekin is playing against Aronian. Jeffrey Chong playing against Hikaru Nakamura. A lot of heavyweight battles out there at the top. And Andrekin against. And Shimano is playing against Hans Niemann. Yes, knight e3 is the move, guys. Knight e3 is the move that Sham missed. Queen f4 was a blunder. He had to move his queen elsewhere. Something like anything else would have worked except queen f4. Like he could have even gone to h3 because now knight e3, that's queen into h7 check. But he went queen f4, and now knight e3 super strong move. A discovered attack, attacking the queen and the rook, and Sham had to give up his queen for not much, and he's completely losing here. Now, the other Indian game between Bharat against Dharini Puria, Bharat has a really nice position. He has more active pieces. It's all symmetrical, equal pawns, equal pieces, and it all looks so similar. But Bharat is just a little bit better in the position and has a massive advantage on time. He's almost double the time of his opponent for context. So Bharat playing for two results here. Either he's going to win this or he's going to make a draw. And that's a roundup of all the 5 Indian games in this round. It's only 5 because Sham and Harsha are playing each other. And meanwhile, getting back to the Ronak game, the India's best hope for qualification in week 17 of the Rapid Chess Championship. And Ronak seems to be in a small bit of bother, but I can see a draw, guys. I can see a draw. B4, this pawn is threatening to go. So, of course, Ferociu takes the A4 pawn. And now this bishop gets to this diagonal. This pawn goes to B2. Yes, and this is a complete draw. This bishop goes to D4, and this is pretty much a fortress. And I think Ronak can even put his pawn on F6, put the bishop on E5 and keep waiting. But King F6 is even more accurate because you want the king to be on E6. And from here, the king can just move around. And look at this bishop. This bishop, the rule of the same diagonal, it defends the B2 pawn, which is, the attacking pawn. It will defend the F6 pawn. This pawn will go to F6. So from one diagonal, it's like in Tamil, there is this proverb, Ottakalula rendu manga, like one stone, two mangoes. Same way, the bishop in one diagonal, it just protects the B2 pawn. It will also protect the F6 defensive pawn, and this F6 pawn in turn will protect the G5 pawn. And on the whole, black is a very happy entity. Everything, every person, every piece is looking after each other, and they're like this unbreakable group. So this one's going to end in a draw. And I think Ronak is very much capable of holding this. They have about 3 minutes each, and it's a non-incremental time control. So there is always that element. But yeah, bishop c3, rook b3, bishop e5, and you just wait and yeah, you just wait, and white can't really do much. So this one's going to be a draw, and this one's also going to be a draw. Queen d1, queen h5, and we are just in time to witness this draw, which wow, Arjun going for the queen with the b pawn, and after rook into g3, h into g3, Dugo forces this draw, and you can't really escape it because if the king goes to g2, then there's knight e3 check, and it's game over. There's even knight g4 check or queen h5, and then knight g4 and king h3, it comes with a check. And if king g2, then there's knight e3 check, and it's game over. So Arjun making a draw there, and Durar Bailey is having a substantial advantage against Harika. I think he's going to take this one. He has a clearly better position. He's a pawn up, and black is not really getting enough counterplay. He can continue with a5. Harika can try and create some counter chances with queen into c3 with the idea of, after a into b6, rook d4 with the idea of attacking both the queen and the bishop. And now it gets a bit tricky for white, but he can just go queen e3. The point being that at the end of it, the white pawn gets to a7. So queen into e3, f into e3, rook into c4, and now after b into a7, this pawn is really strong. But there's a deep variation. I'm not sure if it's so easy to see in rapid chess. And oh, the game has moved on quite a bit. And this is the current live position we have, where Harika has managed to win a piece, and this seems to be going towards repetition as well. We saw a repetition. We saw likely draw in the Ronak game. The Arjun game has already ended in a draw, and this one's also set to end in a draw pretty quickly. So a lot of draws in this round. It's been but this one's still on. White still has the option to try and keep the game going with something like f4, but that would be a double-edged sword. I think they're going to repeat. Also, white has less time than black. Harika has more time. She has a bit of a time advantage. So, oh, he goes for it. He goes for f4. Interesting. Durar Bailey probably counting that he doesn't have much to lose because he has the initiative. He has all these pawns, and at any point he can just give checks and make this draw. Harika can go rook g7 here. The point is she keeps an eye on the g2 point and doesn't allow white's rook to come in active. So it's like, going in before the opposition does it, like having your YouTube video before another person puts it, the same content. But yeah, queen e8, queen e5, queen h5 check, and I think this should. Oh, he plays on, but does bishop g1 check? Okay, but too little time, and I guess by this point, black has to try and take over. Black has to try and take over and try to get back. And this was really a nice opportunity. She had bishop g1 check, there was king h3, queen e6 check, and this rook had to get into this very uncomfortable pin. And because if you play f5, then black takes on g3 with check, and then queen into e5 check. So this was a great opportunity, but now we are in this point in the live game, and it's still not bad for black. She's holding on, and Durarbeli has only 20 seconds. So this one's going to be very interesting. Meanwhile, a quick update on the other results. Bharat Subramaniam has won against Darini Puria. So in terms of the standings, Aronian is leading at the top with 6 points, and Fedosiv at 5.5 after that draw against Ronak, and a bunch of players at 5 out of 7. Already people catching up from behind. Hans defeated Shimano, Abdusatro defeated Sugiro, and Hikaru defeated Jeffrey Chong. So the top 8 is filled with 5 out of 7, and at 4.5 out of 7 is another 5 people. And the game has ended in a draw, by the way. Harika finally repeating and managing to get that draw. So she moves to 3.5 out of 7. It's not going to be helpful for the qualification because there are a lot of people up there ahead, and 4 out of 7 is Arjun at the 17th place. He needs to win the last 2 rounds, and even then it's not guaranteed if he'll get into the top 8 qualification for the knockouts tomorrow. And everyone else at 3.5. There is Harika at 3.5, Bharat at 3.5, Harsha at 4 out of 7. He is also in with the content. He's also in contention with 2 wins out of 2, and Sham Sundar at 3 out of 7. So that's the score of all the Indians at the end of round 7. And guys, do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll be back after a very short break for round 8.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move! He made a pre-move, king g3!
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
poor.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No!
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
He blunders his rook, and Magnus wins the game. And that was a lesson in just pressure, pressure, pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He's getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. And Shiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next move. He's gonna win it, and he's gonna take the lead in this tournament. Carlsen playing against the youngster from Uzbekistan.
Abdusatorov has beaten some really strong players in this tournament, and that makes me kind of optimistic about his chances against Magnus here.
And Magnus now is going to give up another pawn. Wow, look at this. For the second time, Magnus is giving up pawns in order to just get rid of them. There's a check coming in here from Abdusatorov, and Magnus resigns. Abdusatorov takes the lead after a win against the reigning champion. Carlsen will have the opportunity to strike back with the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi.
Magnus is probably regretting this knight cd5. Now he's definitely forced to be playing for the draw.
He's not going to be catching Jan Nepomniachtchi.
That was surely a very disappointing game with the white pieces.
It's the big matchup of this round. If Kostyanyuk makes a draw with the black pieces, she will be crowned world champion.
I would have to give the edge to white in this position because of the permanent nature of black's king problems.
I agree that this is an advantage for white. What? It's over! Kostyanyuk is the champion!
Yes, Kostyanyuk, she had a wonderful tournament, a very convincing first place with 9 points.
Alexandra Kostyanyuk, the new women's rapid world champion.
Nakamura facing off against Carlsen. We've been waiting for this pairing, and it couldn't have happened at a better time when everything is on the line.
Magnus moved his rook and no longer is trapping that king on the edge of the board.
Yeah, I mean, rook a5 is a pretty good move, but also king g2, as you said. And
Magnus gives it up. It's a draw, and the rules of the event stipulate that only the 2 players with the best tiebreak score will be allowed to play the playoff. Third place, then the bronze medal for Carlsen. It is Abdusatorov getting ready for the game. He will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Rapid Chess Championship round 8, and we are just in time to catch Ronak making a quick draw against Maxim Mutlako, who he played in the previous Rapid Chess Championship qualifiers as well. In that, Ronak had won the last round against Maxim and qualified. He won the qualifiers and qualified to the knockouts. This time he makes a quick draw. They played only one more e4 and it's a draw. The game against so that brings us to the game of Arjun against Shu Xianggu, and Ronak had defeated him in an earlier game, and it started as a Catalan opening when Arjun plays 5 bishop d7, which he also played against someone else quite recently, just yesterday in Indian time, and today if you're living somewhere else. And who was it against after 5 bishop d7? This is again a dubious opening against Catalan, but very much playable in the rapid time control. And white usually gets a better position, the pair of bishops, and similar advantage. But white seems to have misplayed the opening a bit. And here Arjun has some pretty decent initiative. The pawn all the way till h4. He has castle long. He has d5 protected. But it's never easy to get an attack against the g2 bishop, guys. You can even get a queen to h7, Like, hypothetically, let me just make some moves. And you can get this queen to h7, but in these situations, white can always just move the rook. And there's no way to deliver checkmate. And there's no way to disturb this bishop on g2 because black doesn't have a light square bishop himself. So this is the trump card in white's position. Bishop d2, f5, rook a1, g5. Yes, Arjun gets all these things going, but it's not quite clear how he's going to deliver the final blow. Well, he can get the queen to h7, he can do these things, but white will just move away the rook. And not sure if rook a7 is such an accurate move because you might have wanted to keep it for the f1 rook, but yeah, I think this is a problem. The d4 pawn is going to be a problem. And Arjun just replying with knight b6. The queen is attacked. The d4 pawn is threatened. And his opponent clearly intimidated by the attack that he's facing. And now this d4 pawn gets hit with a check. If you take it directly, then the queens will get traded. White will take back on g5. But you can start with something like knight e5 and then take queen into d4. And this pawn will fall with a check. And guys, there are some pretty crazy variations here. Okay, queen e2, queen into d4 check, bishop e3, and now apparently this is not from me, this is from the computer, but there's this beautiful move, queen into e3 check, queen into e3, knight g4, attacking the queen. The point being that if the queen moves away from this diagonal, he can go to e2, e1, or f3. If it moves away, then there's bishop c5 check, and king h1 runs into rook into h2 mate. What a beautiful move this is. Bishop e3, queen into e3 check, queen into e3, and now knight g4. What a beautiful move. So some amazing lines possible here, but it's hard to see these things, guys. And from Arjun, I expect a more human move, something like f4, bishop g7. He goes bishop c5. Yeah, getting this bishop onto this diagonal, I think that's the more human approach. But what he had with this queen d4, queen into e3 was just awesome. Was just out of the world. So this was bishop c5, and I'm sorry, this was this variation with knight e5, queen d4, queen into e3. Mind-blowing variation, but not the kind of stuff that appears on the board. Like, it's just too good to happen in a game. Then there is a game between so rook f2 at this point, once again, to take us through. So this was the position, and we were looking at knight e5, queen e2, queen into d4, and you can play the rook to f2 here, but this is a lot of material. Bishop f2 and now knight c4. If you take queen into c4, there's knight e3 check. So this is just a lot of material against the queen. So black is winning here. Getting back to this, bishop c5, there's knight to b5, and now I expect a whole lot of trade on d4, and at the end of it, white is not too worse, but Arjun is in the driver's seat. Let's have a look at the other games before getting too involved here. There is the game between Harsha against Shimano. This is pretty equal here, and once this came from it looks like it came from the Caracan, but it actually came from the Scandinavian defense. But sometimes the Scandinavian defense can assume the pawn structure of the Caracan opening, and it's a Carlsbad pawn structure but reversed. So it doesn't have quite the regular characteristics of the Carlsbad structure, and black is keeping things pretty much in balance here. So Ronak is at 5.5 out of 8, and Arjun and Harsha has 4 out of 7. Now there's a game of Rustemo against Harika. Haika has 3.5 out of 7. She has the black pieces, and she started with the King's Indian defense structure. Here you can see the pawn structure, totally King's Indian. The pawn on g6, bishop on g7. There's the d6 pawn, the h4 pawn, and white is clearly better here. White has a big advantage because of incredible amount of space. The pawns on g4, f4, e4, it's like a horde of pawns. Like you have watched in movies how this infantry comes in running and clashes against opposition infantry, except that they have nothing holding them back here. So this gives white a lot of space, all these pawns. And what happens is when you have a lot of space, it's like having a lot of space to move around your house. That gives a lot of breathing space, whereas the black pieces are kind of tripping over each other. It's like living in one of the major cities, and white on the other hand has so much free movement, and this also gives a lot more opportunities for the white pieces to find a good job or to set up their trade and all the other things. So white has a substantial advantage here. Rustem is also the grandmaster who lost against Ronak in round 4 after missing the choker of a tactic, if you guys remember. So that is Rustemo. And this game, though, he is in the driver's seat. Moving on, Bharat has the white pieces against his opponent Jose Martinez, who is also known as Jospem. That's his chess.com ID. And Bharat has a really nice position. This came from a Benoni, I assume. And at least the structure of black's pawn structure is Benoni, and the pawn structure is the anatomy of any position. And this knight goes to c4. This pawn is on e5. It prevents black from playing b5. And ultimately, white's aim is to get the e5 break in these positions. But on the other hand, Bharat's time situation is really worrisome. He has only 4 minutes against his opponent's 7 minutes. And there's no increment in this time control. It's 10 plus 0. So I think white's position is really nice, but the time situation is a massive problem, and it's going to get tricky for Bharat. And the other Indian game is Dick Bogdan Daniel against Sham Sundar, who has had a topsy-turvy tournament. He started out with half out of 3, then he won 2 games in a row. He was winning clearly in the third game, but he chose to take out a repetition. He kind of ejected, and he had no reason to do so. There was no prize money at stake. There was no incredible pressure, but he just felt a bit intimidated at the lack of time he was having. He had only 1.5 minutes, and that set his tournament back by quite a bit. When you make such decisions where you're kind of like giving away the opportunities, then when your opponent has similar opportunities, they show you no mercy. And now the white queen is coming on h4, the rook on h3, and this looks dangerous for Sham Sundar, to say the least. And he also has less time than his opponent, but he's come back from similar situations, so let's see what happens. But going back to the Arjun game, Arjun with the black pieces has made some substantial progress here, guys. We are just right in time to see Arjun winning a piece. His opponent played the pawn to g4 here, which was a blunder. He had to move away his bishop, and the problem is after g4, it attacks the rook and the knight, but Arjun completely ignores it. Like, okay, let's not go down that cliche analogy, but Arjun completely ignores it with d into c3. And the point is, if white takes either the rook or the knight, either way, black has c into b2, and this pawn is unstoppable from queening. So black is completely winning here. So d into c3, this was a blunder. B into c3, rook b1 check. Now knight to e3 check, and black is just winning here. He's up a piece, and this king is likely to get mated after knight d5 check. So Arjun is winning, and with that win, he's likely to go towards 5 out of 8, and advances his chances for qualification. With 6 out of 9, he should stand some pretty good chances. And I'm really eagerly waiting for the time where we see two Indians in the knockouts. We have had only one Indian in the knockouts so far in the history of Rapid Chess Championships. Vidit did it a few times, then Arjun qualified in one of the weeks. Raunak did it last week. But it will be so nice to have two Indians, and Arjun has won this, so he moves to 5 out of 8. He has to win the last round, and then he'll still need a little bit of luck to get towards the knockouts. But here he is at the 10th place. Not all games are over, so he will probably be at the 14th place or something at the end of round 8, and he will need a final push to get into the knockouts. But let's see if he's able to do that. Meanwhile, Harsha is also keeping himself in contention. He's up by 2 points. He has more time, and he started with 0 out of 2, but he's out here with 4 out of the next 5 rounds, so a total of 4 out of 7, and he's set to score his 5th point out of 8 rounds. And let's have a look at how he managed to get here. So this was the situation, guys. F4, Queen C7, and here his opponent gave his chances. He played Queen C7. The idea is to attack the F4 pawn, and here Harsha made this superb move which turned the game in his favor, and he's likely to get into the he's likely to boost his chances to get into the top 8 because of this move. What was this move, chat? What was this amazing move by Harsha which turned the game in his favor? The top 8 get into the knockouts, and right now the top 8 is populated by Aronian, who has finished his game. He has 6.5. Then there is Fedosev, who has 5.5, but he's playing against Nodebek. He's still playing game on. Hikaru drew against Aronian, so he has 5.5. Raunak had a quick draw, a 1-move draw. Andrekin won against Hans Niemann. Hans Niemann in the 7th spot at 5 points. Maxim Matlako with 5.5. Abdusatro still playing against Fedosev. One of them is going to go up, and we already have Jules with 6 out of 8. He defeated Parham Maksutlu. So Arjun right now at the 10th place and Raunak at the 5th place, but this will change a bit, guys. We'll have a better look at the standings at the end of this round. Meanwhile, yes, Samir, it was rook into e6. Rook into e6 was this amazing move. The point being that after rook into e6, bishop into d5, the rook is pinned, and the black has to either give up the rook fully or give up the c4 knight. And this is how Harsha got into this dominant situation. And this is the current situation now, the live position, where he's up by 2 points. There's still some technical task to do, but it's not going to be too difficult for Harsha, I believe. Harika has lost her game against Rustemo. We'll have a quick look at the other 2 games before getting back here. Bharat is having a fantastic advantage with the white pieces against Jose Martinez. Look at these 2 monstrous pawns. The pawns on d5 and e6. This pawn set to go to d6. The other pawn set to go to e7. And white is completely crushing here for crushing this position. And Bharat looks set to score another win. He had an excellent rapid championship the last week. He was winning against the likes of Fabiano, but in many of those games he just didn't have enough time and got flagged. But I think this one he's going to convert, and he's getting better with each. He's incredibly young. Once again, he got an award from MS Dhoni very recently, and he's one to watch out for the future. And his coach Shyam Sundar is not exactly showing how it's done in this game, but he has had some good games in this tournament, and he has 3 out of 7. He's piece down at this point, but it's complex, guys. It's complex. It's game on, and black has 3 pawns against the piece. It's a really interesting position, and this knight has to retreat to either e4 or f3. Both of them attractive options for white, because the position looks pretty stable. He goes with the knight to e4. If black goes something like rook e8 here, then queen h4 is deadly. So this is the danger that black has in this position. And knight e4 played by white. Sham goes with the rook to b1, and here queen h4 like moves are dangerous, but he's exactly playing it against that, so that he can take rook into c1 check. And the variation goes on, but it's complex. Yeah, it's complex. So rook b1 on the board, and here queen h4 looked dangerous, but I think knight c3 is an understandable move. He wants to first dislodge this knight and then come back here. Queen d4 check played by black. The king will potentially move to h1. The rook has to move to a1. And this game is going to go on for a while, guys. So let's have a look at the Harsha game before getting back here. Harsha's about to win this any time. Queen h5 check wins a piece. Yeah, he's taken it. He's won this piece. And from d5, he will protect the g pawn from going any further than g2. This bishop will go to e3, guard the pawn from going to g1. Shimano plays the queen to f3, preventing queen d5. But this bishop is going to come to e3 pretty easily sooner or later. And I think Harsha is pretty much on his way. Queen e6 check, bishop to e3, and then start advancing his pawns. Still a few technical tasks to take care of, but well within Harsha's reach and potential. And Harsha is also a very strong GM. He's just about 21 years old, from Telangana. That he trades the queens, queen d5 check, queen into d5, c into d5. This bishop goes to e3, prevents the g1 from queening. And Harsha also moves into 5 out of 8. So at the end of 8 rounds, we have 3 players in contention for the qualifying to the knockouts. Ronak with 5.5 out of 8, Harsha with 5 out of 8, and Bharat Subramaniam. Sorry, Arjun Erigaisi also with 5 out of 8. And he's won this. He will win this game. Let's have a look at the Deek Bogdan against Sham Sundar game, which is at present at this point. It's a tense situation. Sham has more time and he has the initiative, and there's a great chance that he can win this game. Deek has just played his queen to e4, and this leaves the c1 bishop in price. But if you get greedy, then there is this move queen e8 check, and if king g7 there's queen h8 checkmate, and if queen f8 there is rook h8 check. So Sham sees that and he goes with the rook to a1, covering the a8 square, and queen b7 played, king g7, bishop h6 check. Oh, he's blundered. Sham has blundered. That's tragic. He just blundered with king g7. King g7 was a terrible blunder. After bishop h6 check, if the king went to g8, there was queen c8 check, and there's this bishop f8 discard attack which happened, and Sham resigned after knight e3 check, king f3. That's gut wrenching, and that's the end of 8 rounds. After which Fedosey was in the lead with 6.5 out of 8, and Aronian with 6.5, Jules with 6, and Ronak with 5.5. He's playing against Hikaru in the last round. I do expect a quick draw, but if Hikaru chooses to play on, then it's not so. It won't be so easy. And Arjun in the 12th spot, he's playing against Sugiro. And Harsha in the 14th spot, he's playing against Abdusatru. We'll be back after a very, very, very quick break. Meanwhile, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move. King g3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life, and I think he just lost the piece there. Yep, that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes. There's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
He can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making.
Welcome back, everyone, to the round 9, the final round of the Rapid Chess Championship, week 17, powered by Coinbase. And we are here at the last round. This is the top 8 guys, the top 8 who will qualify into the knockouts. And Ronak has the black pieces against Hikaru Nakamura. And Ronak would have probably offered a draw already by now, knowing him. And if the game is going on, it's likely that Hikaru would decline the draw offer, which is a pretty interesting development, guys. And if Hikaru chooses to play on, it's not going to be easy to. He's one person against whom it's not easy to hold a draw for granted. I think he's the toughest opponent. I think he's definitely the strongest player in this field in terms of strength, and it's going to be interesting. Ronak with the black pieces against Hikaru. We'll spend a lot of time in this game. But before we do that, we'll have a quick roundup of the other openings. Arjun is playing against Sugiro. Guys, once again, guess Arjun's opening. Which opening did he use in this game? This is a pretty nice position for Arjun, a good opening to get. The pawn on h5 will go to h6 and it will create a unpleasant threat on g7. The 2 knights on the board. He will castle long and he will try to create threats on the king side here. Harsha has the white pieces against the world rapid champion, Nodibek Abdusatro, who has not had the best of tournaments. You don't usually see him at 5 out of 8 here. He usually is up there higher, but it happens to the best of us. And he has a few points lesser than what you would expect. But he has a nice position at the end of the opening here. With a4, he breaks white's pawn structure, and after b into a4, knight b6, the queenside pawn structure is broken. Knight into c5 doesn't work here because of bishop into c5, queen into c5, and there are threats like knight d4, a very strong discard attack. But before that, knight into a4 is even stronger. Queen c2, knight d4, and black is just better. Meanwhile, chat, you are exactly right. It was the Jobawa London and Arjun Sugiro game. He started with d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4. And this time Sugiro went bishop f5, but e3, e6, bishop d3. And I think Arjun has become the Indian ambassador for the Jobawa London opening and should do some kind of collab with Hans Zimmerman. So knight e5, queen would go to d4, king b1. It's a pretty nice position, guys. Meanwhile, Arjun and Hans are actually pretty good friends off the board. Oh, guys, it's a draw. It's a draw in Ronak Hikaru game. So that updates the standings a bit. And Hikaru with 6 points. I think Ronak has sealed a spot in the top 8. So Ronak OP in the chat, guys. He's done it twice in a row. He's kind of mastered the art of qualifying into the Rapid Chess Championship. Brilliant performance by Ronak. And this is his second tournament in a row. You can see how tired I am, guys. Imagine the players. They have been playing for such a long time and they're out here playing once more against such strong opposition. All rated about 2500 and 2600 and sometimes about 2700. And Ronak has qualified into the knockouts of the Rapid Chess Championship. And that will be tomorrow. Ronak with 6 out of 9. And here we can see 6 players already with 6 out of 9. Fedosiv, Aronian, Ronak, Hikaru, Jules, and Matlaku. This leaves only one spot open for someone with 6 points because Jeffrey Chong has 5.5, Dimitri Andrekin has 5.5, and one of them is set to go. So it's going to be very tough for anyone who wins from 5 out of 8 to get to the top 8. But Arjun will try everything he can to get there, and he has a pretty nice position here against Sugiro. And Harsha is the other one with contention, who's in contention. and his position is not so bad anymore. His position is not so bad anymore, guys. He has consolidated a bit with the knight coming to c4. He has these squares to take advantage of. The bishop goes to f3. Yeah, the knight to d5, exactly. The knight comes to d5, and he also has this f4 breaks possibilities. And he's playing at a pretty healthy tempo. He's playing pretty fast. The knight coming on to d5, and there is the options of knight b6 incoming, and if the bishop moves, then there is knight d6. So Harsha also in with promising chances of getting to 6 out of 9. And Harika is playing against Wokido. Not a great position from Harika. The pawn structure is symmetrical, but this f4 pawn is a bit of a weakness. e4 square, e3 square, all of them exposed. And black is doing... black has a good position here. Dubo is playing against Bharat Subramaniam, and Dubo has set the board on fire. We are in time to witness a beautiful tactic. If black takes queen into d5, then white has this lovely move, bishop a5 check, a discovered attack, and winning the queen. So this is a very strong game by Dubo in a Sicilian defense. And it started off at this point, guys. White to play here, and white has this really nice idea with a4, b4, and knight d5, opening up the e file against black's king. This is a very strong thematic sacrifice. It started with this, then this knight goes to c6, which is a very strong square for the knight, replaced by a very strong pawn. And after that, white just gets a raging attack, and the c4, c into d5, and bishop into d5. Beautiful game by Dubo. And now with queen a4, he threatens bishop a5 check, and this is practically an impossible position for Bharat to defend. Sham Sundar is playing against Clementi Seche, and this looks pretty equal, although white has some chances because he's a bit more advanced. Opposite color bishop, that is the presence of rook, but too few pawns, and it's likely to get traded and end in a draw. So Shams, it's probably equal, but he has some chances, and if anyone has a chance, it's white. Getting back to the Arjun game, queen e4, rook f d8, and it's equal pawns, guys, but look at how dominant this pawn on h6 is. It's a thorn in the opposition's position, and he can kind of keep things with g5. It's not going to lead to an immediate mate, and I don't think he will want to allow knight into e5, f into e5. So he's going to likely pull back the knight, or play something like rook d2. And okay, if he plays rook d2, then there is knight into e5, which changes the pawn structure. I'm not sure if Arjun will want that. Oh, he in fact goes for rook d2. And knight into e5. I think he will be happy to go into this endgame in further thought, because this d4 pawn will be isolated, and it can be surrounded and captured by the white pieces, and the e5 pawn will be protected by f4. White has a better pawn structure. So rook d2, very promising chances. We'll stick with the Arjun Sugiro game, and also look at the Harsha Abdusatro game from time to time. Rook d5 played by black, attacking the e5 knight, and in the Harsha Abdusatro game, white has a really nice position. I really like this knight on d5, and he can make further inroads with something like f4 or bishop f3, and create potential problems for black. But on the other hand, black's position is also quite solid, and against Abdusatro, you really need to maintain a good tempo of speed on the clock. Knight d6 is very tempting here. Knight d6 attacking the queen and the rook simultaneously, but it probably wouldn't work, because after knight it is... Oh wait, It probably wouldn't work because of queen d7, knight into c8, and now I'm imagining queen into d5. No, not queen into d5, bishop into d5. And the knight gets trapped. The knight gets trapped. This is the point. This knight is trapped on c8. So this is why knight d6 doesn't work. And Harsha, after a long think of close to 2 minutes, that's 20% of his time, he goes for bishop into a5 first, and bishop into a5. Now, if black takes bishop into a5, then after bishop f3, white keeps this strategic bind on the light squares. Look at all these lovely pieces placed on the light squares. So Abdusaturo probably has to take bishop into d5, and now black has taken one of the most important active pieces in white's position. And once again, this knight d6 keeps failing because of this knight being trapped on c8. So bishop into a5. Yeah, black takes bishop into d5, and the position remains approximately in balance. It can go either way. Oh, guys, by the way, Arjun has won against Tugiro. He wins the last round. He wins the last 2 rounds on demand. It's a crushing win. And we missed this moment where his opponent played b5, allowing Arjun to play this deadly and devastating move, knight into f7. The e6 pawn hanging, knight into f7, e5, knight into e5, knight into e5, f into e5, and after d3 he just played c3, a5, rook into d3, and now white is up by 3 pawns, and after queen d7 he threatened queen g7, so Sugiro ended up resigning. It's going to be very difficult for Arjun still to get into the top 8, but we'll check the standings at the end of the round. It's a bit early to check, guys, because a lot of other games going on. Arjun won with 6 minutes to spare, but other people are not as fast. So it's going to get a while to update the standings, including this game of Harsha against Abdusatru, where Nodibek has managed to make quite a bit of inroads in the last few moves. He has a lot of free space. The pawn getting to b5, and he's got rid of this important d5 knight, which was really one of the trump cards in white's position, and I think that is the reason why all the advantage of white disappeared. And now white doesn't really have such a big advantage in any part of the position. A few quick moves there. Rook e6 evicting this bishop. Look at how nicely the pawns on b5 and c5 control the board. But it's still a long game ahead, and a long game of an attritional warfare. We will focus on this game. Now, in the updated standings, at the moment, Arjun is in the top 8. But there is a game going on between Andrin against Jeffrey Chong, and one of them is likely to get ahead of Arjun, I think. So it looks tough, but let's have a look at it at the end of the round. Let's not get ahead of ourselves for the moment yet. So getting back here, the Dubo Bharat game is still going on, because Bharat is a fierce defender. He's never going to give up easy. But look at his king, sad king, and Dubo should win this later, probably not sooner. It's going to go on for some time, but Dubo will win this. And Sham, on the other hand, looks determined to finish it off with a win. He has a few technical tasks ahead, but I think he should be able to. He should manage to get it done. And white is winning here. So let's see if Sham wins this one, finishes off on a high. And Harika has lost her game against Bukido, and now we'll focus and stick on this game of Harsha against Abdusatru Nodibek, where where black is dominating. This Harsha lost an exchange at around this point. He played queen b2, blundering knight a4. So he lost an exchange. And after that, we have this live position where this pawn on b4 is advancing. Bishop c6 played by black, trading one of the minor pieces. And this pawn on b4 is going to be a very painful pawn for white. Has any Indian qualified? Ronak is set to qualify. And aside from Ronak, Arjun is the other contender. Harsha was a contender. He had 5 out of 8, but this position looks difficult for him. The pawn coming on to b4. He took with the rook, so this pawn is not coming onto the on b4 for the moment. But Harsha has 30 seconds less. Nodebek is brutally fast, and now I think the rooks might come onto the first rank. Black will take bishop into d5 and bring both his rooks onto the first rank and start creating threats against white's king. So it's just going from bad to worse for Harsha, and he can move his bishop to d7 for the moment, prevent the escape of white king to h3, and then continue on with both the rooks invading. Harsha tries to threaten the c5 pawn, which makes sense. If black goes bishop d7, he can go queen into c5. So this sets a bit of a technical problem, some queen e7 check related threats, and now it's not so easy for Abdusatro to create these mating threats. And with knight e3, this king can escape from this direction. This bishop. So Abdusatro plays bishop g4, locking this king in. But now I think queen c7 check is a possibility for white, trading the queens and going into this position with bishop. It can get very dangerous though with the mating net. Rook a1, rook g1, rook h1, rook g1. And this bishop on g4 is a painful move. Maybe what you want to do is you want to play rook c1 and try and trade the rook instead of the queen. So there's none of these annoying mating threats. But that's not so common and that's not so easy. It's more natural to try and trade the queens. Let's see what Harsha does here. Yeah, he goes for f3, bishop d7, and queen c7, queen e7. But he's burnt up a lot of time. Oh, he's blended his queen. The pressure got to him. And after that discard check, he resigns instantly. And it's game over for Harsha. A great fight by him, a great effort. But unfortunate. He just couldn't pull through. Meanwhile, Bharat putting on great resistance. This guy's not easy to beat, guys. He's never going to give up so easily. You have to be very careful against him once you get a winning position. And his coach Shyam Sundar, on the other hand, is not likely to win this one. He has to make a draw, and he also has to be careful against the pre-moves. He has only 20 seconds remaining. And if he keeps pre-moving king b7, king a6, king b7, king a6 back and forth, there is a chance his opponent might play a5 at some point. And he doesn't even stand a chance to lose there because it's the wrong color. So Shyam might end with a draw, most likely, but he could even get flagged. And Bharat is still fighting on. Incredible spirit. But he has 20 seconds less and this queen endgame is totally lost. He's down a pawn. He will probably lose the f7 pawn too. This king is too far away. So f5, king g5, king h6, king d7. This is one of the winning plans. You get the king to the close to the f7 pawn. This queen cannot move. And this pawn can also go g5, g6. So this one's losing for Bharat. But the time will also play a factor. Shyam Sundar has meanwhile drawn his game, so he finishes off with 3.5 out of 9. He could have done a bit better, but I think it was his first time playing this event, and it's a pretty good start actually. I think Harsha also had a similar start last week, and he played much better this time. So pretty decent start by Shyam there. And white is it's actually a draw here, but Bharat has only 2 seconds, So he's going to get flagged. He's going to get flagged. And he's going to keep giving a few checks, but there he goes. He's been flagged. And that's the end of the 9 rounds, guys. That was the final round. And now a look at the standings where Fedossi in the top spot, 7 points. Aronian with 7, Jules with 6.5, Enriken with 6.5, Ronak up top there because of a fabulous start, along with Hikaru, Nodebek, and Matlako, and Hans Niemann and Arjun Erigaizi, likely very unfortunately missing out on the top 8 on the knockouts. This is actually an incredible pity, but that's the time break system here. It really rewards a good performance early on, and it doesn't reward the late finishes as much. So Arjun, incredibly unfortunate there, but it was a great performance nevertheless by Arjun and a very strong finish. So he finishes with 6 out of 9, and a bunch of people on 5.5 and 5. Some pretty strong players there, including Dubo, Parham, Sarana, and Harsha finishes with 5 out of 9. Bharat with 4.5. He played much better this week than the previous week, and there's a lot of positives to take from this tournament for him. Harika had some great games, but she finishes off with 3.5 along with Sham Sundar. So that is this week of Rapid Chess Championship, guys, week 17. And we'll have a confirmation pretty soon on Twitter. But I think it's going to be bad luck for Arjun. But it was a lot of fun doing this with you guys, chat. Thank you so much for sticking through. Thank you so much for staying all the way. And see you all tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow, covering the games in the morning and the knockout journey of Ronak in the evening tomorrow. And the last time Ronak went all the way to the finals, so I'm really hoping that he manages to do something similar here. But let's see. Tomorrow, 9:30, and I'll see you all. Thank you so much, chat, and see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.